Alrighty, greetings and salutations everyone. My name is Andrew Kirkhoff and welcome to our Saturday morning live stream for week 17 of the 2024 fantasy football season. Over the course of the next 2 hours in a row, we're going to be talking all things fantasy football related in regards to setting our lineups in order to help us capture a 2024 fantasy football championship. Earlier this morning, breaking news that Chuba Hubbard is going to be placed on the injured reserve, will not be available for many of our teams going into this weekend. If you had told me going into the championships, week 17 week, there was a possibility of not, imagine going into week 17 and you had Jalen Hurts, CeeDee Lamb, Chuba Hubbard, and Alvin Kamara on your team. Just imagine what kind of shambles you would be in. Either way, we're hopefully going to be able to pick up another running back, place him instead, and hopefully still be able to capture a victory within the given week. But either way, as we progress throughout today's live stream, reminder, the rankings that are right here are quite literally ranked as of just this morning, 10 minutes prior to the stream beginning. I've adjusted the rankings in order to accommodate for the absence of someone like Chuba Hubbard, all the injuries that have taken place over the course of this week, having gotten the full injury reports from Wednesday, Thursday, and yesterday, Friday. With all of that taken into account, these are the rankings at a top 36 capacity for running backs, wide receivers, top 16 quarterbacks, tight ends, top 12 kickers, and defenses. These rankings do not include any players who have already played thus far this week because, again, I want to provide as many rankings as I possibly can in order to give ourselves the best opportunity to winning. When you guys send in a question, whether it is via live stream or to claim priority via the super chat, make sure you include your scoring format. That is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Outside of that, let's get into answering questions, shall we? Again, it's a very interesting week. We have 3 games today. Which should be exciting, but we'll see how this goes, shall we? All right, so let's get into answering some questions, beginning with the first question of the day, coming in from Nick Walker. Nick, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Nick says the following. He says, start J.K. Dobbins and Spears at the flex over Tracy and Devontae Smith. As it currently stands, going into this week, I would say, let me see if that's actually the case, because I don't know what your scoring format is because you didn't mention it. Again, reminder, guys, please include your scoring format involved within your question. Let me see where I have Devontae Smith technically ranked in comparison to someone like Tracy. Yeah. So if I was in your position, Nick, I would start J.K. Dobbins alongside of Devontae Smith. The expectation is that, not Devontae Smith. I would bench Devontae Smith. I would bench Spears. I would play J.K. Dobbins today alongside of Tracy, who would play tomorrow, under the assumption that Tracy's healthy. Now, the only time that I would ever change up the starting 2 of J.K. Dobbins and Tracy would be if, in fact, Pollard was to be absent this week and Spears would have the entire Tennessee backfield to himself, to where I would suggest you play J.K. Dobbins and Spears. That's the way that I'd go about it, whether it is half or full PPR. Thank you. Isaac Espinoza sends it a question. Isaac, thank you very much. Says, pick 2 between these 3. I have J.K. Dobbins, Jacobs, and Barkley. Yeah, you start your studs. You play Barkley, you play Jacobs. You would sit J.K. Dobbins in this scenario. Sure, does he have a fantastic matchup? Absolutely. But considering, again, he is still coming off of the injured reserve, even though in week 16 he had practiced at a limited capacity as a ramp up over the course of that week, and then once again did exactly that this week, which gave the team enough confidence to activate him and have him ready to play this week. Obviously, your better options are Barkley and Jacobs, 2 of the top 5 backs this season. Thank you. All right, Ray C sends in a question, says Miami or the Bills defense. I mean, look, they're closely ranked as it currently stands. I do have the Miami Dolphins defense still ranked ahead. When you're taking on DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, that is as advantageous as you can possibly ask for a matchup. On top of the fact that Cedric Tillman and David Njoku are both going to be missing for the Cleveland Browns offense. I mean, truly, it's going to be an advantageous event for this Miami defense, taking on a quarterback that, in my opinion, really, truly cannot move the ball down the field at an efficient rate. And obviously, this offense continues to turn over the ball just as much as any team in the National Football League. So the Miami defense would be my suggestion there. Thank you. Eric Johnson sends in a question. Thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate it. Says, in a 10-team half PPR league, I have McMillan, Debo, Madison, pick 2. All right, let me see where I have Madison in comparison to those receivers in a half PPR. I'll let you know right now. Okay, so as it currently stands for my flex ranking, okay, so this is a really close separation. When I say separation, okay, so Debo Samuel is the clear and away number 1 of those 3. Unfortunately, I have a situation here where the projections have it currently set as Alexander Madison as my number 38 of the remaining players in the flex in a half PPR, and Jalen McMillan is my number 39. I have them ranked back-to-back in a half PPR. I have Madison 1 spot ahead of him. They are both in the same tier of player. So ultimately, I could justify playing Jalen McMillan over Madison. It's purely just a matter of how you want to approach it. I do have Alexander Madison quite literally one spot ahead of him. For those of you guys who are Patreon members, those rankings have already been posted as of earlier this morning around 2 a.m. So they don't include any of the potential changes for Chuba Hubbard because I hadn't been able to get to that. I quite literally woke up and hopped on stream, saw that he was, obviously going to the injured reserve, and I've adjusted that accordingly. But outside of that, currently Alexander Madison and Debo would be my suggestion. Thank you. All right, next question comes in from Knee Jerk. Thank you very much. It says, in a full PPR, we have Kyron Williams / Dobbins as my RB1 and 2, or Spears or Abdullah if Dobbins is out. So Dobbins is going to play. That is a for sure. He's going to be starting, this upcoming week with the absence of Gus Edwards, giving him the entire backfield of opportunity, whether it is on the ground or through the air. So if I was in your position, I would be playing Kyron Williams and Dobbins today. Both of those are your two best players out of your 4 running backs available. Now, as for your next question, he says, I need a flex. It says Neighbors, Reed, Coleman, or the above running backs. Says that have been doing really well. Yeah, so as it currently stands, the only time that I would play any of these options ahead of Malik Neighbors in your circumstance is if, in fact, let's say, for example, we were in a situation in which Tyjae Spears had no Tony Pollard associated with him. Let's say Pollard tomorrow is inactive prior to the game. At that point, I'd be willing to play someone like Spears ahead of Neighbors within your flex position. Otherwise, Neighbors is your best play and your most, not only does he have the highest upside because of the volume of opportunity he's given, his floor is ridiculously high as well. So that's the direction we go in. Thank you, Knee-Jerk. Appreciate it. Jimmy sends in a question. Thank you, Jimmy. It says, Rashad White or Garendo? Already starting Bucky in a PPR. So considering you're starting Bucky, typically, what I would suggest is starting both of the Tampa Bay running backs just to ensure that you're getting the entire workload of value out of the backfield. I've mentioned this in the past, and I'll continue to reiterate it. When you have 2 running backs of this caliber on the same team, and you have them both on your fantasy team, it's probably in your best interest to start both of them in order to make sure that just in case a touchdown was stolen in the direction of Rashad White, away from Bucky Irving, you'd be able to compensate for that by having him on roster. Even though I do currently have Garendo ranked higher in a full PPR capacity and even half PPR going into this week, I think it would probably be very similar to in which we would do with a Jahmyr Gibbs plus David Montgomery combo. You would do the same thing with a Rashad White, Bucky Irving combo going into this weekend. So that's my primary suggestion based on your current circumstance rather than the rankings alone. Now, if you were like, hey, listen, I just want the most possible points, we're just purely trying to go after the highest projection, then Garendo would be the suggestion there. But if I was in your position, I would have a hard time not starting both Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thank you. All right, James Grover sends in a question. James, thank you very much. Says, hey, Andrew, really struggling to make a couple key decisions. Need some help. Says Murray with a possible really low floor or Tua. Yeah, the only issue that I primarily have with Tua Tagovailoa this week is the weather concerns going into the game in Cleveland. Again, Tua Tagovailoa earlier this year in Green Bay on that Thursday night Thanksgiving game obviously played incredibly well in terms of 300 plus passing yards. It was like 365 and 2 passing touchdowns over the course of that game, which was fantastic. But typically in weather situations, he typically doesn't have the greatest of times. As it currently stands, there's an 83%. The current report for rain doesn't technically implicate that the rain is going to be covering the stadium per se. It says 83% chance. It says definite rain showers with 17 mile per hour winds minimum. That in itself is concerning enough to where it could potentially impact the overall upside of Tua Tagovailoa if the weather is going to play an effect, especially within the deep passing game. May not be as vital to the offense if it can't be actualized because of the weather concerns. Now, yes, amongst all quarterbacks, when we talk about Tua Tagovailoa, he gets the ball out of his hands the quickest in terms of his snap to throw timing. He is the fastest quarterback in the National Football League. They dump off the ball a ton to their running back. So as it currently stands, he could still survive it, but I much prefer to play Kyler Murray in this circumstance, not have any concerns with weather situations going into this weekend. And of course, he always has the rushing upside that's implicated. Now, as for your next question, it says Dobbins coming back from injury or Brian Robinson. As of right now, I would prefer to play Dobbins coming back from injury. I don't see that Brian Robinson is a significantly lesser play in comparison because, of course, Brian Robinson's a great player. He's shown that all season long. Sure, he's coming off of his worst week of the season, but it was against a difficult matchup against the Eagles. So, again, I still think that Brian Robinson will succeed within the Atlanta Falcons matchup, but the Falcons aren't, a bunch of slouches in terms of their run-stop defense either. So I'd still believe that Dobbins is the better play considering he plays against that Patriots run stop defense that is inept. As for your next question, Miami defense or Indianapolis, as of right now, I would go with the Indy defense. And then it says full PPR. Yep. Playing against Allen and Taylor. Yeah, you should be good to go, James. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very generous of you. All right, let's see here. We had a follow-up question from Knee Jerk. Thank you very much, Knee Jerk. Greatly appreciate it. Says second league finals in a full PPR, Miami, Indianapolis, or Tampa Bay. Between those three, I would prefer to play the Indianapolis Colts defense. Miami second, Tampa Bay third. Again, reminder, guys, rankings right there, top right of the screen, are updated as of this morning for defenses. So if you guys are wondering, for those of you, if I'm not able to directly answer your question, hopefully these rankings on screen will help. Thank you. As for your next question, Knee Jerk, you have RB2, Connor, Chuba Hubbard. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard's out for the season. And then we have Breece Hall and Aaron Jones. Cool. Of those available options, if I had to pick one of them, Aaron Jones is my running back. And then as for your next question, wide receiver 2, we have Ridley, Mooney, Marvin Harrison, or Judy. Of those available, I would play Ridley. And then if I'm playing 2 flex, I would play both of your remaining running backs, which would be Connor and Breece Hall. So my primary suggestion as of right now, Knee Jerk, would be in your second league finals, Indianapolis defense, along with Aaron Jones, Calvin Ridley, James Conner, and Breece Hall. Thank you. Ocho sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says in a half PPR, 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. We have Shakir, Thielen, Dobbs, Tracy, or Spears if Pollard is out. Okay, in the event in which Pollard was out, Spears would be your flex. Okay? In the event in which that does not take place, you would be playing Thielen as your wide receiver 1 and Tracy as your flex. That's the way that I would go about it as of this week. But again, like I mentioned earlier, in the event in which Pollard is out, you'd play Spears in the flex over Tracy. Thank you, Ocho. Appreciate it. As for your next question, also in I need 1 flex in another league, it says Dobbins, Spears, Tracy, Dobbs, or Marvin Harrison. Yeah, so actually, is it the same league? I mean, again, if it is the same league, no, it is a different league. Dobbins would be the play there. In this other league, Ocho, Dobbins would play as your flex. Thank you. All right, Hakima sends in a question. Hakima, long time no see, my man. Hope you're doing well. Says, I lost CeeDee Lamb and Connor. Connor's not lost. He's going to play today. So you're good to go, brother. Rejoice. Again, Connor's going to play today. Chuba Hubbard may be lost, but Connor will play. Again, over the course of this week, in terms of the practice reports, going back to even Tuesday, he was a limited participant. By Thursday's practice, he was running prior to practice. A lot of the beat writers for the Arizona Cardinals, very confident in his overall movement prior to the game. So the expectation is that, of course, because they haven't shut him down, that injury that he sustained against the Carolina Panthers this most recent Sunday wasn't as serious as originally anticipated. So again, that is a very positive sign for us going into this week. So you can certainly utilize Connor to your benefit here, Hakima. Let's see here. Connor, who isn't 100%, needing help at RB1, 2 flex, and 2 wide receivers and the kicker. Okay, so let's see what you have available here. You have Bijan, Irving, Connor, and Michael Carter. Great. You're starting 2 running backs. Well, okay. Your starting running back is going to be Bijan Robinson. Bucky Irving has to play as one of your 2 flex options. Okay. As for your wide receivers, BTJ, Downs, Mooney, Jamison Williams, and Tolbert. BTJ has to play alongside of Jamison Williams, in my opinion, there as your wide receiver 1 and 2. So yeah, if I was in your position, the way that I go about this, I'm playing Bijan, Irving, Connor, BTJ, Jamison Williams, and within the kicker position, I'm playing Will Reichard. That's the way that I'd go about it, Akima. Those are my starters if I was in your position setting your lineup today. Thank you. All right, Fantasy Football Girl sends in a question. Says, CeeDee Lamb out, exclamation point. Yeah, that's rough, isn't it? Pick 1, full PPR. Brandon Cooks, Pittman Jr., Quentin Johnston, Tolbert, Zacchaeus, and pick a defense. Okay, so really quickly, first and foremost, as a contingency, so we're all aware, I'll go ahead and reiterate this over the course of this live stream and also tomorrow on multiple occasions. So as of right now, we're not 100% privy to the information as to whether or not Anthony Richardson is going to play or not play going into this weekend. If, for example, Anthony Richardson was going to not play this weekend, okay, he was inactive, I would change the rankings that are on screen. So you see these rankings here? This is under the assumption right here. This is under the assumption that Anthony Richardson plays. In the event in which he does not play, I would have Josh Downs as my number 19 wide receiver and Michael Pittman Jr. as my number 31 wide receiver. So again, that is a to-be-determined situation. We're not going to be able to hang our hat on that idea as of yet. But in your situation, Fantasy Football Girl, if, again, Flacco was to be the starting quarterback this weekend, Pittman would probably be my suggestion of the available options you have here. In the event in which that is not available, I would just tell you to play Brandon Cooks. As for your next option, it says pick a defense, Colts or the Raiders. I prefer the Colts of the bunch. Thank you. Okay, we continue on. I believe the next question is from Arda. I think my YouTube's about to crash. There it is. It crashed as per usual. Okay, good to go. Let me scroll back up here. Let me go find Arda's question in a moment. 1 second here. Okay, here it is. So Arda's question is, third Super Bowl in 3 years. Congratulations, Arda. That's fantastic. It says Colts, Miami, or Chargers. Between the three of them, I'd prefer to play the Colts this weekend. And then also Sam Darnold or Bo Nix, I would prefer to play Sam Darnold between the two of them. Again, you've got a lot of incredible options available to you, but if I was in your position, Arda, I'd pick up the Colts and play them. I'd also pick up the Miami Dolphins so that your opponent can't utilize them against you. And because the Chargers are about to play in 2 hours, so they won't be able to utilize that. And of course, yeah, Sam Darnold over Bo Nix. Thank you, Arda. Congratulations on 3 Super Bowls in 3 years. That's crazy. Xavier sends in a question. Says, feeling like starting Debo over Ladd McConkey in a full PPR. I don't mind that. Would I suggest that to you? No, not technically. But I don't mind the thought process and the potential that Debo kind of provides in this situation. The separation of value between the two of them in a full PPR, I have Ladd McConkey as my number 11 compared to Debo as my number 16. They are 2 different tiers for my personal standings. But again, I don't see that as a move that I wouldn't like. I wouldn't tell you that you have to go one way or over the other. I don't mind the idea of playing Debo. Do I prefer Ladd? Sure. But as of right now, Xavier, I'm not going to talk you out of it. I think there's a justifiable reason as to why you would do so. The rushing upside and the touchdown upside certainly implicated in, of course, the secondary of that defense. But I do believe that Ladd is the better play. Thank you. Victory has defeated. Sends it a question. Says, full PPR. If Flacco starts, Garrett Wilson or Josh Downs? I would prefer to play Josh Downs if Flacco starts. And which quarterback would you prefer, Bryce Young or Flacco? I would prefer Flacco. Again, okay, so I forgot to mention also, in the event in which Flacco was to play, I would put him exactly where Anthony Richardson sits, which is quarterback 12 as it currently stands. So that's where I would kind of slot him in. That's the way that we go about it. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Knee Jerk as a third question follow-up. It says, 2 flex, Cook, BTJ, Juwan, was that Jennings, Chase Brown, Tyreek Hill, or Neighbors. Okay, of those available options, if I'm starting 2 players in the flex, Knee Jerk, I'm playing BTJ and Chase Brown. Thank you. Carolina Nurse sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says, full PPR, Neighbors is hurt. Very well. Play Stevenson in the flex. Neighbors is hurt. I don't think Neighbors is going to be inactive, though, right? I mean, again, he was on the injury report, sure, but is he hurt? Hurt and injured, I mean, I guess it depends on how you want to categorize it. It says Neighbors' toe is listed as questionable for Sunday's game versus the Colts and is expected to play via Ian Rappaport as of Friday, 3:46 p.m. PST. So again, as it currently stands, if he's quote-unquote expected to play, he's in my lineup. I would prefer to play him over Ramondre Stevenson in a full PPR. Thank you, Carolina Nurse. Appreciate it. Prowl sends in a question. Says, I lost Kamara, Marvin Harrison, or ETN? I think I want to say regardless of scoring format, I prefer to play Marvin Harrison. Like, there's certainly more inherent risk with playing Marv because of his lack of opportunity of touches. But I truly do believe that the upside that he could potentially provide in comparison to someone of the caliber of ETN is just so much more valuable against that Rams defense that I'd just rather roll him out there, especially considering there's so much competition for touches for ETN out of that backfield with Bigsby. In a positive game script, Bigsby sees himself a far greater share of workload, which was obviously, demonstrated last time out against the Tennessee Titans. So as it currently stands, I would suggest that you just roll with the potential of Marvin Harrison there, Prowl. Thank you. Colin Smith sends in a question. Thank you very much, Colin. I appreciate it. It says full PPR, pick 2. Higgins, Neighbors, or Jonnu Smith. Yeah, as of right now, full PPR, I am playing Higgins and I am playing Neighbors. As much as I love Jonnu Smith, again, I don't think I can variably trust him at that point. Look, if Jonnu Smith scores a touchdown, he can certainly outscore the potential of Neighbors. But Neighbors has been a 6-7 catches, 60, 70, 80 receiving yard kind of guy. He's going to get you at a base minimum 13, 14, 15 points in a full PPR format. If he scores a touchdown, he's a 20-plus point player. So ultimately, I do think it's just impossible to sit him in comparison to a Jonnu Smith. Now, it's not to say that Jonnu Smith is not capable of coming away with a 9-catch, 90 yards, and a touchdown game. He has certainly proven that over the course of the season, but I do expect Jalen Waddle to return, which certainly will provide a little bit more target competition already within a pretty rough weather situation there. Thank you. Bryce Long sends in a question. Thank you very much, Bryce. I appreciate it. It says, start 2 in a full PPR. Dobbins, Garrett Wilson, Jennings, or Kupp. As it currently stands in a full point PPR format, I would suggest going with Dobbins and Jennings as my 1-2 combo. Full PPR. Thank you. But why though? Sensitive question. It says Flacco over Stafford / Tua if he plays. The answer would be yes. The only issue that is implicated within that question is that Stafford plays today while Flacco would play tomorrow. So you won't truly know the status of Anthony Richardson most likely until tomorrow. Hopefully, the organization will do us as fantasy managers a favor by letting us know exactly that Anthony Richardson is or isn't going to play prior to the night game with Matthew Stafford. But if in fact you're not able to get that information, you could push it till tomorrow and still take the risk of rolling either Flacco or Tua. It's up to you as to how you want to go about it between the two. If you're looking to play Flacco at all costs, if you don't get that information tonight, again, Stafford and Tua are back-to-back within my rankings. I think they're very similar in terms of potential for upside at this moment. So if you wanted to push it till tomorrow and worst case scenario, just play Tua, I don't think that's a bad idea. Thank you. All right, Wet Bandit sends in a question. Says, no Jalen Hurts. I need one for a full PPR. Flacco, Stafford, or Bryce. Also, Laporta or Hawkinson. Cool. I mean, the quarterback conversation is a little bit more difficult in comparison to your tight ends. You got to play Laporta there. He's been incredible as of late. Since week 10, obviously averaging over 11 fantasy points per game and a half PPR. Full PPR has had even more upside for potential in comparison to Hawkinson, who obviously has kind of fall by the wayside as of late. Now, in regards to your prior question from Flacco, Stafford, and Bryce Young. Again, Flacco plays tomorrow. Stafford plays tonight. In the event in which we get information that structurally kind of, they don't have to outright completely say, oh, Anthony Richardson is not playing. All they have to do is give him the doubtful tag, and we're good to go. Once that has been given, then we can start Flacco tomorrow. But until then, if there's no information presented to us, Stafford probably ends up being to play tonight. In the event in which you're like, listen, I'm just trying to push it all the way to Sunday because I want to play Flacco, then again, you could just wait. Worst case scenario, you play Bryce Young, which again, I think he is a lesser quarterback in the absence of Chuba Hubbard, but I certainly don't think that he's a guy that I'm avoiding as of this week. I still think he's a solid play against Tampa Bay's defense. Thank you. All right. Bakari sends in a question, says PPR, 1 wide receiver, 1 flex, McMillan, Higgins, Ford, J.K. Dobbins, Spears, Madison, and Blackshear. Okay. So Raheem Blackshear is it Raheem or is it Rashid? I have to actually look this up. Raheem, yeah, it is Raheem. Okay. So he is going to be filling in for Chuba Hubbard. Do I think that he is going to be a great fill-in? Absolutely not. There is still a possibility that Blackshear and Mike Boone are going to be a two-headed monster split backfield. And already the Tampa Bay Buccaneers run-stop defense has played incredibly well over the course of the last month and a half now. So I'm not too keen on playing Blackshear there. But of your available options, Higgins would be my wide receiver and J.K. Dobbins would be my flex. Those are your two best players going into the given week. Higgins earlier, yesterday, they did designate that he's expected to play. Again, while someone like Jamar Chase is probably going to be pulling the coverage of Patrick Surtain, it will provide a lot of opportunities for T. Higgins, who again, I mentioned it earlier this week in the Thursday wide receiver rankings video. The volume of times that Higgins has out-targeted Jamar Chase over the course of the last 9 games they've played together, I believe it's 6 of the last 9 games that he's out-targeted Chase. That's a ridiculous number, and I think it's only going to continue to provide value to Higgins, who has scored a touchdown in 5 of the last 6 games in which he has played. So as of right now, that's the direction I'm leaning in with Higgins and J.K. Dobbins. Thank you, Bakari. Appreciate it. Hakima had a follow-up. Says, PPR forgot to mention my scoring format. No problem, Hakima. Let me see if I can go back to your prior question. Yeah, regardless of scoring format, I'm still going in that direction. I would still suggest that you play Bijan, Irving, Connor, BTJ, and Jamison Williams, along with Reichert. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next question. We have Sebastian Alex, who says, why the Colts over Miami? Look, the Colts defense over Miami is primarily because the weather that is implicated within that Cleveland game could potentially provide more of a rushing upside for both teams, to where if everyone's running the ball in that game and the weather is so brutal that the running game actually finds relevancy, the Cleveland Browns aren't a bad team at running the ball, and neither is someone like Jerome Ford or Deontay Foreman, whoever they throw out into that conversation. So if it becomes a pure run game and there's less opportunity for turnovers because DTR himself is not throwing the ball as much and it's more of a run-heavy approach, that's my only concern there. While we know for sure in the scenario of the Colts game, the Colts, regardless of who's playing quarterback, are going to take a massive lead, which will force Drew Lock to throw the ball for majority of that second half. And when he does so, that'll create more opportunities for sacks and interceptions, which inherently will provide an extra little boost in comparison. If the weather was going to be clean, and obviously Miami would take an early lead, massive, it would be the same kind of formula for the opposite side. So again, you could theoretically start either of the two, but that weather is a little bit tricky in my mind. Thank you. Danny A sends in a question. Says, Goff or Darnold? I prefer to play Goff. We talked about it yesterday into the quarterback and tight end rankings video that I posted on the channel. Goff and Darnold have both been hella consistent over the course of the season. Goff, obviously, 2+ touchdowns in 11 of the last 13 games. I think Darnold was 11 of the last 15 games. Again, both of them have been incredibly consistent. As of right now, both of them have very similar matchups in terms of difficulty, taking on Green Bay and San Francisco. But based on how Goff has played as of late, he is the preferred of the two in my mind, taking on that 49ers defense. Again, if you wanted to play Darnold, I don't really have an issue with it. I have them relatively closely ranked, quite literally back-to-back. As for Jennings and McMillan, I'll lean towards Jennings if I'm not mistaken, I have Jennings ranked higher in a full PPR, but McMillan in a half PPR. Let me just confirm this. Yes, McMillan in a half, Jennings in a full. Just purely dependent on that reception total. Thank you. Dustin sends in a question, says, in a half PPR, I need a flex between T. Higgins with injury and weather, Dobbins, Jennings, crazy, but I'm thinking of starting Bryce Young over Kyler Murray. I think it's a little bit tricky in that situation. In the absence of Chuba Hubbard, if that running game isn't relevant and they're just pinning their ears back and getting after that offense, the only concern I would have with Bryce Young is that his offensive line's a little bit beat up. I believe both of his starting tackles could be missing today or tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see on the status of the left tackle. I know that their right tackle's for sure out, though, which obviously gives me a little bit of concern regarding his potential. Obviously, hopefully he can get out of there and just scramble, but for right now, I'd suggest you play Kyler. As for your prior question, I mean, again, if I'm playing one of these options in the flex, let me see where I have T. Higgins in comparison to someone like J.K. Dobbins, which I think would be your next best option here in a half PPR. So if I go and look up Dobbins, where do I have him accordingly? As it currently stands, yeah, I still have T. Higgins ranked higher. If you wanted to play an alternative option because you were worried about his injury, which I'm not too concerned about, but if you were theoretically, Dobbins would be your only pivot, in my opinion, as the primary suggestion there. Thank you, Dustin. Otherwise, I'm playing T. Higgins. Thank you. Vinny Jordan sends in a question. Says, Cup or Downs if Flacco starts? In the event in which Flacco was to theoretically start, let me see. Yeah, as of right now, if Flacco was to start, you would play Downs over Cup. But again, the issue is that Flacco won't be designated the starter until probably tomorrow because, again, the Rams play later tonight at the 5 p.m. night game against Arizona. So unless we get information within the next 12 hours here, less than 12 hours, more like 8 hours, unless we get information in the next 8 hours that designates whether or not Richardson is going to go, you kind of have to probably start Cup in this game unless otherwise noted. Thank you. Derek just sends in a question. Thank you very much, Derek. I appreciate it. Says, hello. How's it going in the championship? How's it going in the championship? I mean, week 17 is pretty rough so far, I would say. Obviously, I think the biggest highlight of week 17 thus far has been the defenses. Kansas City, Seattle, Baltimore, certainly putting up some incredible performances, which obviously is exciting. But as for your question, let's see here. I have two questions in a full PPR. Reed, Downs, or Spears. First question. In the event in which Flacco was to start, Downs is your play. In the event in which Pollard is out, Spears is your play. In the event in which neither of those two circumstances take place, you are playing Jaden Reed tomorrow. Thank you. Next question, Packers or Chargers defense? Thank you. I'd play the Chargers defense. Thank you. Appreciate it. Pedro's Lucario sends in a question. Says standard, quarterback, flex. Allen or Daniels, Bucky or Evans? In a standard scoring format, I would play Bucky Irving for sure over Mike Evans. Now, as for Jaden Daniels and Josh Allen, I could theoretically justify the reason as to why I would play Jaden Daniels there. Primarily, so here's the issue. Both games are going to be rained upon. Both quarterbacks have rushing upside. Truly, I know for a fact that regardless of weather condition, Josh Allen can perform in any circumstance. It could be a blizzard. It does not matter. He will perform. So I'll lean in his direction still. Not only is he the best quarterback, but I think even in this circumstance of both quarterbacks being in heavy weather conditions, I'll still lean in his direction. So Josh Allen's my primary QB and Bucky would be my flex. Thank you. Oscar F sends in a question. Oscar, nothing attached to your question. Hopefully you type in the live chat. Let me go ahead and let me pull up a notepad just so I can type in your name and then we can go ahead and find your question. Same thing with static. Nothing attached to it. Hopefully you typed in the live chat, and Blue Jay also the same thing. So we'll go ahead and try to find your guys' questions. Before I do so, Matthew, let's see here. Matthew in the chat says full PPR, start Deebo Samuel, Ford, or Dobbins. Between those three in a full PPR, let me see where I have Deebo in comparison, and I'll let you know right now. As it currently stands, Deebo Samuel is the highest ranked of the bunch. So that's the direction that I would go in. Debo would be 1. Dobbins would be 2. Ford would be number 3 in a full PPR format. Matthew, thank you. All right, so let's go to the live chat. Let's see if we can find Oscar F's question. Let's see here. Oscar F. Okay, so Oscar, I don't see any questions from you in the current chat. Please do me a favor and type that in when you get a chance. Static, same thing. I don't see your question. And then let's see if Blue Jay typed in anything. Blue Jay says, was curious what changed between Bryce and May ranking. Yeah, the primary change purely is the absence of Chuba Hubbard. In the absence of Hubbard, I think the running game is going to be a shell of itself because truly it wasn't a good matchup to begin with. It's purely just the effort of Chuba Hubbard and his talent alone that is the separating factor that made him a top potential 12 option within the given week. In comparison to the, kind of committee situation that will now be filling in for the cause, I think it really does hurt the potential for Bryce Young in this situation. So Drake May, in my opinion, just slightly overtakes him in this scenario going within the matchup. That's why I've also moved up the Tampa Bay defense within this scenario. And then also, let's see, your next question says, I don't know who to play between, I don't know who to start, Flacco, but I have JT already. Says I have Cup or McMillan in a full PPR. As of right now, in a full PPR, I'd probably go with Cup there. Potential weather in Tampa makes me lean towards Cup. I would do the same thing with that little with Blue Jay. So look, as of right now, if I was in your position, considering May plays in an hour and a half, I'm probably just leaning in that direction. If you want to push it because you want to play Flacco, you could. Worst case scenario, you play Bryce Young tomorrow. But if I was in your position, I would just play Drake May at the moment, and I would play Cup in tonight's game. Thank you. All right, let's see if Oscar F had sent in a question as a follow-up. Let's see here. Scroll down to the bottom really quickly. Okay, Oscar, if you can hear me, type that in. Static, you do the same thing, please. Thank you. Static, anything? Nope. All right, I don't see anything from Static either. Okay, so we'll come back around in the live chat in just a moment until those are typed in. We'll continue answering questions so we don't slow down. All right, continuing on. Big Verge sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, I need a flex between Mooney, Dobbins, Isaac Guerrero, and or Spears. Is Dobbins or Isaac going to be limited on snaps? I lost Hubbard this week. Yeah, this morning, excuse me. Yeah, look, as of right now, of those available options, Dobbins is my suggestion. I would not anticipate either of the two to be on a pitch count or be limited in any capacity. The only time I would ever suggest playing anybody else between the bunch, I guess you could consider playing Spears, but again, that would require Pollard to be inactive. Considering Dobbins plays in less than an hour and a half, you kind of have to make the decision sooner rather than later, and you won't have all the information available to you. But we should anticipate Pollard to be active this week. I would play Dobbins there in your case. Big Verge, thank you. Oscar F sends in a follow-up. It was a follow-up via Super Chat. Okay, that works as well. Says Alexander Madison, Jacoby Myers, or Tyjae Spears in a full PPR. Okay, of those available in a full PPR, I probably end up, let's see here, playing, where do I have Myers in comparison to him? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, Alexander Madison is my suggestion there. The only time I would ever pivot away from Alexander Madison is if, in fact, Pollard was out. Don't anticipate that to be the case, but as of right now, Madison will be my suggestion there, Oscar. Thank you. Oskino sends in a question, nothing attached to it. Oskino, hopefully you can go ahead and type in the live chat. I don't see anything attached to your initial question, and we can go ahead and take care of that when we get a chance. So type that in the chat when you can. Thank you. OKC BK sends in a question, says in a half PPR, pick 3 between Bucky, Juwan, Jonnu, McMillan, Brian Robinson, and Dobbins. Cool. If I was in your position, picking 3 in a half PPR, I would play all 3 running backs. I'd play Bucky, Dobbins, and Brian Robinson Jr. Thank you. AJ sends in a question, says half PPR, thoughts on starting Debo over Myers? 100% yes. Says, in the championship, I'm starting Allen, Puka, Charbonnet, Gibbs, Kittle, Myers, Jerome Ford, Reichard, and Las Vegas' defense. My bench consists of Debo, Mooney, Ramondre Stevenson, and Jonnu Smith. Yeah, if I was in your position, I'd absolutely play Debo Samuel over Myers within the flex position. That is the best play of the bunch. Thank you very much, AJ. Appreciate it, brother. Prankster's Nightmare sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR flex, 1 between Waddle, Pittman, and J.K. Dobbins. I suggest you play J.K. Dobbins there. Again, Waddle's status still up in the air. Pittman's value is purely attached to the fact that there could be a possibility of Flacco being active. There's also a chance that he's not. So I would suggest you play J.K. Dobbins within the upcoming matchup here at 10 a.m. PST. Thank you. Abraham sends in a question, says, in a full PPR, question 1, Darnold or Goff? I will take Goff there. Again, they're back-to-back ranked, but I do prefer Goff in this circumstance. Next question, Chargers or Packers defense? I'll take the Chargers there. Question number 3 says pick 2 between Jacoby Myers, Adam Thielen, Juwan Jennings, or Jalen McMillan. In a full PPR, I would suggest playing Adam Thielen and Juwan Jennings there. Thank you very much, Abraham. I appreciate that, brother. Drake Pond sends in a question. Says James Conner, Deebo Samuel, Jerome Ford, full PPR, need 2. If I'm playing 2 of the 3, I'm playing James Conner and I am playing Deebo Samuel. Thank you, Drake. I appreciate that, brother. All right, let's see here. If we continue to hop back into the live chat, hopefully Static had typed in a question. Let's see if I can find Static's question. Static, I don't see anything from you in the live chat as of yet. Hopefully, oh, there it is. I see it now. Thank you, Static. All right, Static says the following. Says also in a, okay, so this says also. So I'm assuming it is a 2-part. Why is your, there it is. I found it. Okay, so says my opponent has Hubbard. They haven't woken up yet, so I picked up Blackshear and Kendre Miller. Estimate and Boone are on the waivers. Let them have it. Worth picking up. They have no other running backs. I would pick them up. Like if I was in your position and you had to drop wide receivers or quarterbacks that you're not going to utilize and you wouldn't anticipate them to pick those players up, you absolutely pick them up and you kill his team. Absolutely. I'd pick them both up if you had an opportunity to do so. Like let's say, for example, you had bench wide receivers on your team and you're like, this guy's already got better wide receivers than these available, so he's not going to pick them up and use them. I'd make the swap and I'd pick up for sure Estime at very least, because there's always a chance that Estime could score a touchdown. As for Mike Boone, I mean, you could let him have it and, you know, finish with 2 points by the end of the week, or you just pick them both up and give him no shot at winning, which again, I would be very much so in tune with doing that. That is the strategy I love to implore. As for your next question, says also in a half PPR, Myers, Addison, McMillan, or Garendo start 2.5 PPR. Okay. Of those available, I would suggest you playing Garendo alongside of Addison there. Thank you very much, Static. Appreciate it, brother. All right, let's see here. If we took care of that question, the only other one is now Oskino that I believe. Let's see if I can find your name in the live chat here. Hopefully you typed in recently. Nothing in the live chat as of yet, so we will just wait and just continue moving until that is sent in. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. The next question belongs to, again, really quickly, before we continue on, for those of you who are joining us, welcome. Happy holidays. Hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful week. Again, the rankings that are on the right side of the screen are up to date as of this morning. They do not include any players who have already played this week, so just keep that in mind. Again, yes, it is already taken into account the absence and the injured reserve stint now that will be taking place for Chuba Hubbard, so keep that in mind. Additionally, the rankings on screen for running back, wide receiver, tight end are for a half PPR, and the quarterback rankings are a 4-point per passing touchdown format, -2 per interception. Thank you. Okay. Continuing on, we had a question that came in from Twisted Folk who says, flex, Ladd McConkey or Dobbins in a half PPR. Ladd feels safer. I agree with you. I think that Ladd McConkey is certainly the quote-unquote safer option of the two. That being said, I don't know if I'm going in that direction. Let's see where I have this. As it currently stands, I have Dobbins 3 spots ahead of Ladd McConkey as it stands in a half PPR. If it was a full PPR, I would tell you, yes, let's just play Ladd McConkey. Let's not get cute with it, and let's not, risk the potential. Because again, Ladd McConkey in a full PPR, those reception points are just too valuable. This being said, yeah, if I was in your situation, I'd be playing J.K. Dobbins. If you wanted to play it safe, no risks, because again, we're just trying to squeak clean with a championship, then yeah, you could just play Ladd McConkey. But as of right now, Dobbins is my suggestion. Thank you. Papa Bless sends in a question, says questions in the comments. Okay, Papa Bless, I'm going to go ahead and check that out right now. We also had a question from Carlos M, who is, there's nothing attached to it. So we'll look for that in the live chat. Before I do so, let me just answer a couple more of these questions here. Mr. 305 sends in a question, says defense. Roll with Las Vegas or Dallas. I'd much rather play Las Vegas' defense over Dallas. Even with Jalen Hurts out, I don't expect Dallas' defense to be able to function, mainly because their offense is not going to put themselves into great situations. Their offense is probably going to be experiencing many of 3 outs in the absence of CeeDee Lamb this week. So I'd anticipate the Las Vegas Raiders defense to be the better of the two. Trevor Melville sends in a question, says not sure who to play with the last 2 flex spots in a full PPR, either Ramondre Stevenson, Jaden Reed, Okonkwo, or Garendo. Thanks. I'm currently 7-7 with a huge underdog in the chip. Yeah, that's incredible. Going 7-7 and still making it to the chip. I mean, the luck that is required to accomplish that in itself is rare. But congratulations, Trevor. I'm glad to hear it, brother. So let's see what you have here. Ramondre, Reed, Okonkwo, and Garendo. Let me see where I have them ranked in a full PPR, and then I will let you know right now. So I'm just going to purely check Okonkwo because I'm going to assume I have him ranked perhaps the highest of the bunch, which currently he is. Let me see where Garendo is comparatively. Okay, now where is Jaden Reed? And then where is Ramondre? Okay, so as of right now, legitimately, I would suggest you play Chigoziem Okonkwo and Isaac Guerrero. Those would be the two that I would play as of this week. If I wanted to risk it and I was just purely going after the PPR format, I would say Chigozimo Okonkwo plus Reed could be a potential variable option that we can go with. But as of right now, again, Reed, the sketchiness of the potential of him getting a consistent volume of opportunity, it's typically not there. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, he's been a 10-plus point player, which is fantastic, and that's what we can hang our hat on. So we could go in that direction. I think if Isaac Guerrero is going to be at a full capacity, he's a great play. Again, you won't have to make the decision between any of these players until tomorrow. If tomorrow they say anything of the nature like, oh, Isaac Guerrero is going to be limited or anything like that, because again, he still needs to practice today because they play on Monday. So we're going to get another practice report as of today to give us a little bit more confidence or potentially go the opposite direction with Guerrero. If anything pops up that's a little bit sketchy, just play Jaden Reed in that circumstance with Chigozimo Okonkwo. But otherwise, I'd like to play Guerrero there. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Let me hop back into, before I get into the live chat looking for some of these questions, Justin G says, Herbert or Kyler? As of right now, I'd go Kyler there. Says, I have Marvin Harrison. He has Ladd. Yeah, even with the Ladd McConkey / Herbert combo, I don't know if that's technically going to cancel each other out. I'm purely going after the quarterback who I think is going to score more points. I think in this specific case, it is going to be Kyler Murray tonight against that LA Rams defense. Thank you. All right, so let me hop into the live chat. Oskino, let's see if you typed in a question into the live chat. Oskino, I don't see anything. You've either fallen asleep this morning or you have already gotten your answer question via proxy of somebody else's. Maybe that's the case. Either way. Then we're looking for Papa Bless, who hasn't typed in anything into the live chat either, which is unfortunate. And then we're looking for Carlos M, who also hasn't typed anything into the live chat. So until that has taken place, again, for those of you three who I just mentioned, please do me the favor. Type in the live chat. Until then, we will continue on. Thank you. Alrighty. Let's see here. The next question belongs to the following. Let's scroll all the way up here. All right. James Isaac sends in a question. James, thank you very much. Says Ford, Jennings, or Rachaad White in the flex. It says stack Rachaad White with Baker. It depends on scoring format purely. I think if you're playing in a half PPR, you have to play Ford. I think if you're playing in a full PPR, you have to play Jennings. I actually would not consider Rachaad White as a play in either of those scenarios. So as of right now, James, even with the potential of having Baker, not too interested in stacking that situation. I'd play Ford in a half and Jennings in a full. Thank you. Tristan Ewing sends in a question. Says, I need a running back in a flex in a full PPR scoring format. McConkey, Connor, Pollard, Spears. If I was in your scenario, I'd play McConkey in about an hour and 15 minutes, and I'd play Connor later tonight. I wouldn't even deal with the backfield of the Tennessee Titans this weekend. Thank you. Paul David sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR, Chigozimo Okonkwo or Ferguson. I prefer to play Chigozimo Okonkwo there this week. Again, the volume of opportunity he is exposed to with Mason Rudolph at quarterback and the incredibly advantageous matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars makes him a prime tier play within the given week here. We had Ape510 who sends in a question, nothing attached to it. Hopefully you typed in the live chat. I'm going to go ahead and check that out right now. Ape, if you can go ahead and type that in, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir. All right, so let's go to the live chat here. Anything from Carlos M? Nothing. All right, next. Oskino. Anything in the live chat? Nope, nothing. All right. This is just a complete shambles. All right, Papa Bless ended up typing. Says full PPR. I'm worried about weather games. Should I start? I mean, again, the volume of weather games this week is ridiculous. Again, I don't know what the weather's going to look like. The report could say one thing, we show up to the game, and it's a completely different situation. That has occurred over the course of the season and many of years. Just look at last week. We thought that Seattle game was going to be a heavy downpour. That was certainly not the case, right? Same thing with that Monday night game in Green Bay. We thought that was going to potentially be a heavy downpour, even snow. That was not the case. So again, the weathermen out here are certainly a little bit more... The predictability measures there aren't as accurate as we would have thought. But again, it's not really a matter of like them predicting whether it's going to be over the stadium or not. It's more the general region, so I'll give them a break on that. But anyway, continuing on. It says, should I still start Daniels or Nix? Also worried about the Dolphins game and Tyreek Hill. Yeah, that's why I've moved down Tyreek Hill considerably. Should I start Tyreek Hill or Brian Robinson or Ford? As it currently stands, I don't mind the idea of playing Brian Robinson there, especially in a rain game. I'd play him alongside of Daniels, though. I don't think there's a situation in which I'm sitting Daniels, even for Bo Nix. So if I was in your situation, I don't mind the idea of going Daniels along with Brian Robinson there. Thank you, Papa Bless. Appreciate it, brother. All right, let's see if anybody else within the trio that hadn't sent in questions. Okay, so Oskino, I would assume is just AFK. Ape510 says, I did type it. Please, thank you. Okay, Ape, let me see if I can find your question in the live chat right now. I see it. Thank you, brother. All right, Ape510 says, in a half PPR standard scoring format, we have Lamar and Fairbairn, okay, had already played. It says I have Chase, Evans, Achane, and Tracy, Kittle, Las Vegas defense starting so far. Currently have Jennings in the flex. Flex one between Jennings, Spears, J-Mo, McMillan. Okay, so in a half PPR scoring format, the way that I probably go about this, in the event in which, let's say Pollard was inactive tomorrow, you would play Spears over the rest. In the event in which he is not inactive, you have Jennings, J-Mo, McMillan, half PPR. J-Mo. In the event in which it is not a rain situation, or not a rain situation, well, I mean, the rain situation we can't even avoid. So McMillan would be the play there in my mind. But if the weather tomorrow is brutal enough in that Tampa Bay versus Carolina game, at that point, you just pivot to trying to play Jennings or J-Mo on Monday, which at that point, it would be Jennings. So again, there are multi-tiered like kind of contingencies. Spears if Pollard is out. McMillan if the weather's okay. Otherwise, play Jennings on Monday. That's the way that I'd go about it. 8, 5, 10. Thank you. Okay, we took care of that. We're good to go. All right, we'll continue on. Let's go ahead and move your name off the list, and we're going. All right, the next line of questions comes in from, let's see, is my YouTube about to crash? I think it did. Oh my God, dude, the YouTube, maybe it's just Chrome. I don't know, man. My internet's just like brick. No, it's not my internet. I know it's not my internet. I have fiber. There's just no way. It's just this, for some reason, doesn't want to load. Okay, there it is. I finally got it to work. Oh my God. It's completely bricked system. Okay. D Vogel sends out a question, says full PPR. I need 2 of these players, Madison, Spears, Dobbins, McMillan, or Chigoziem Okonkwo. In a full PPR, as it currently stands, Dobbins would be the number 1. And okay, so if in fact Pollard was inactive tomorrow, you would play Spears as your number 2. In the event in which that is not the case, you play Chigoziem Okonkwo as your number 2. Thank you, Vogel. Appreciate it. Anthony M sends in a question. Says, in a non-PPR, would you start Chigoziem Okonkwo over Ertz? I would, yes. Even in a non-PPR, I still do think that the volume of receptions that he is going to be privy to will increase his overall yardage count, which will make him the more viable option. Now, again, the potential for Ertz scoring a receiving touchdown in comparison to Chigoziem Okonkwo, considering Mason Rudolph has scored 2 touchdowns or 2 passing touchdowns in the last 3 starts that he has had over the course of this season, I would say that Chigoziem Okonkwo has just as high of a likelihood of a potential touchdown in that situation. Says, I'm already starting Ridley. Also, Titans defense over the Raiders now that I have to start Kendre for Chuba. I wouldn't go that far. I'm still going to play the Raiders defense there because, again, Spencer Rattler. That's the primary reason. If I was in your position, I'd play Okonkwo, Ridley, and I'd play the Raiders defense there. Anthony, thank you. Michael sends in a question, says Mason Rudolph, Bryce Young, or Joe Flacco. Considering you don't have to make this decision until tomorrow, if Flacco is available and Anthony Richardson is out, you would play Flacco there. Otherwise, you play Bryce Young tomorrow. Thank you. Rusty Wright sends in a question, says PPR Neighbors or Jonnu. I prefer to play Neighbors there. Also starting Tracy plus the Colts defense. Understood. As of right now, again, technically starting two Giants isn't the greatest position to be in week 17, but at this point, I mean, they are technically your best options. And really, it's not a matter of them scoring touchdowns. It's just purely a matter of their yardage and reception counts that are going to be viable enough this week. Thank you. The Novelist sends in a question, says in the chat. Okay, Novelist, thank you. Let me just type in your name, and then we'll go ahead and check that out in just a moment. Kevin, the credit guy, sends in a question, says Superflex Standard League, Rudolph, Pickett, or Thielen. In a Superflex Standard League where you get 0 points per reception, I am playing Mason Rudolph there. Says in another league, full PPR, Rachaad White, Pollard, or Spears. In the event in which Pollard is active, he would be my starter there. It says point per completion, Goff or Baker Mayfield. Point per completion. I'd prefer to play Goff there, to be honest. I think Baker Mayfield could potentially... I'd still play Goff there. Thank you. G Medina sends in a question, says half PPR, Love or Kyler. I'd prefer to play Kyler there. At the flex, Cook, J.K. Dobbins, Thielen, or McMillan. I'd play James Cook there in the flex. Thank you. Aaron sends in a question, says Aaron Jones or McMillan or Brian Robinson and Mooney. Okay. So If I had to pick one of the two groups, I would prefer the Aaron Jones and McMillan combo over the Brian Robinson and Mooney combo. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it, brother. Kevin T sends in a question, says 6 point per passing touchdown, Nix or Love. I'd prefer to play Bo Nix there. Thank you. Angel sends in a question, says in a full PPR, should I start Tyjae Spears and McMillan for Tyreek Hill and McBride? My team is Allen, Irving, Mixon, Hill, Devontae Smith, Bowers, McBride, Reichard, and Chargers. In a full PPR as it currently stands, if I was in your position, I would only play Spears there in the event in which Pollard was out. Otherwise, I think Tyreek Hill and McBride are probably your plays. In the event in which the weather in that Cleveland versus Miami game is brutal enough tomorrow to where you're like, I'm not even interested in rolling with that, you can play McBride and McMillan. Those would be the two best options in my mind. Unless, again, Pollard is out, I'm not going to go with Spears there. Thank you. All right, really quickly before we continue on, let me see if I can find these questions in the live chat. Hopefully you guys typed it in. For those of you who didn't have anything attached, specifically Novelist, let me see if you have anything in the live chat. All right, Novelist, you're going to have to retype in your question, brother. Nothing was attached, and as of right now, I don't see anything in the live chat with your name attached to it. But we do have a question from Carlos M, who sent in the follow-up. Says, morning, Andrew. Nix or Young? I'd prefer to play Bo Nix this week. Says, Reichard or Sanders? I'd prefer to play Reichard there. Next question, Flex, because Hubbard is out. Thielen or McMillan? I would suggest you play Thielen there. And Colts defense over the Dolphins. Correct, yes. I need a Christmas miracle. Yep, I'm hopefully the fantasy Santa this year. Hopefully bringing championships under the tree. Thank you. All right, Oskino, are you in the chat somewhere, brother? No? Okay. We'll continue on. Oskino's name will now just be erased, and we will not look it up anymore. Novelist is the only one that we're looking for, and we'll be good to go. Scroll down to the very bottom here, and we will wait until Novelist types that thing out, and once they do, we'll be good to go. Okay, thank you. Again, for those of you who are joining us this morning, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. The rankings to the right side of the screen are up to date. Greatly appreciate it. If you guys haven't yet already, click the like button. That goes a long way, trust me. Thank you. All right, let's see. Your next question comes in from Frangis99, who says, hi, Andrew. I'm in the championship. I played Kelsey and Tucker. Okay. I've got Baker, JK, Kyron, Puka, Neighbors, plus Devontae, Thielen as my flexes and the Finns defense. Would you swap either for Pollard or McMillan? Devontae and Thielen as your flexes. Would I swap any of them for Pollard? No, I would not. I would keep it as is. You're good to go, Fran. Thank you. Dennis Rincon sends in a question. Says, playing in the chip this week. Thanks for the help, homie. In a full PPR, Darnold or Purdy? I prefer to play Darnold. Kraft or Okonkwo? I prefer to play Okonkwo. Debo, Devontae Smith, Downs. I prefer to play Debo there. And Los Angeles or Minnesota defense? I'd play the Los Angeles defense. So again, top to bottom, Darnold, Okonkwo, Debo, and the Chargers. Thank you, Dennis Rincon. Appreciate it. Sebastian Alex with a follow-up says, Bryce or Stafford? As of right now, I'd go with Stafford. Says 6 point per passing touchdown. I still lean towards Stafford in that situation. Need upside. Chat greater than sign. I don't know what that means. So as of right now, my primary suggestion will be Stafford there. Thank you. Lethal Jake sends in a question. Says, I had Hurts / Richardson. Do I start May today? Also have Tua. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're trying to avoid any sort of risk, avoiding Richardson's probably in your best interest if you're avoiding risk altogether. And probably if you're trying to avoid risk, Tua is probably someone that you might want to avoid as well. So Drake May's not a bad play in this circumstance as it currently stands. Considering he plays right now in comparison to the alternatives, I think that's an okay approach as of right now. Again, the separation between him and Tua isn't great enough to where I am 100% going in one direction. If I was in your position, though, and Flacco was still available, I'd drop Hurts and I'd pick up Flacco, and I would try to play either Flacco or Tua tomorrow. If Flacco is not active and it is Richardson, I just play Tua tomorrow or something like that, just to avoid the risk. Thank you. All right, Gio Ortiz sent in a question. Gio, I see that. Let me just go ahead and hopefully check the live chat. Maybe you typed in something there. All right, let's see. Really quickly, Novelist sends in his question. Says, can I trust the Raiders over the Chargers? No, I would not play the Raiders over the Chargers. I play the Chargers defense there. Who's more likely to get a 20-piece? Jeez Louise, a 20-piece? No, okay, look, if we're talking about a 20-piece altogether, I think the Raiders defense legitimately would be the higher likelihood because there's a greater chance that the that the Saints do not score a single touchdown this week. That is a greater likelihood. So the potential of the Raiders getting that 20 bomb, I think in my opinion, is more likely rather than the Chargers. But I still think that the Chargers are a better play because I don't expect the Saints to be held to a scoreless game this week. All right, Gio Ortiz sends in a question, says, PPR Superflex, Stafford or Higgins? At that point, I'd legitimately just play Higgins there. Says, why the Colts over the Finns? Yeah, I mean, again, I mentioned it earlier. It's purely just a matter of the weather, implying a little bit more of a run-heavy approach in that game rather than having to throw the ball and leading to more sacks and interceptions. While, Drew Lock will be implicated to do that entire song and dance over the course of that entire game. Thank you. Appreciate it, Gio. Okay, so we got to both those questions. We're good to go. The next question comes in from Arda, who says, picked up 3 defenses I mentioned in waivers. Okay, very well. Curious if you had to pick 5 in a half PPR between JT Cook, Adams, Evans, Amon-Ra, Chase Brown. If I had to pick 5 of those, was that 6 players? That is just 5 players. I'm leaning towards Cook and over Adams. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, it is 6 players. If I was going to sit any of these players in a half PPR scoring format, let me check where I have James Cook. I think he is my lowest ranked player of the bunch. Actually, he's not. It is, in fact, the lowest ranked player. Where's Adams comparatively? Yeah, Adams is my lowest ranked player of the bunch. So if I was in your position, Arda, I'd play JT, Cook, Evans, Amon-Ra, and Chase Brown. I'm benching Adams there. Thank you. All right, Gwen P sends in a question. Says, hi, I'm really worried about the weather. BTJ, Spears, McLaughlin, Jonnu, Chase, Higgins, Brown all may have bad weather. Who would you bench and who for if the weather is bad? Bench is Myers, Jennings, Mooney, Judy, Reichard. Okay. As it currently stands, the issue with the weather concerns is that, yes, there is projection for bad weather. It does not mean that these weather situations are going to persist for the entirety of said games. I honestly, at this point, looking at your team, you have BTJ, Spears. McLaughlin has to play, in my opinion, as well. I mean, if you wanted to avoid McLaughlin to play Reichard, I think that's a good idea considering Reichard plays indoors. But BTJ has to play. In the case of Spears, at this point as your RB, I mean, really, there isn't a variable pivoting option considering you have Myers, Jennings, Mooney, Judy. So you have all receivers on your bench. So looking at the alternative options, Chase, Higgins. No, I wouldn't change anything. I'd leave it as is. You're good to go there, Gwen. I know it's worrisome because, again, the weather could certainly make a negative impact on some of these players. But outside of changing the kicker, I think everything else has to stay as it stands. Thank you. Blizz Frank sends in a question. Says, full PPR, 1 flex, Cup, Cook, Coker, Blackshear, Pittman. If I was in your situation, I would play Cup there. Thank you. Moving on to Jacinto Esteban, who says, Jaden Reed, Laporta, or Tracy in the flex full PPR. Let me see where I have Tracy comparatively, and I'll let you know right now. As it currently stands, I would play, of the bunch, if we can get a full designation that Tracy's going to be healthy, ready to go by Sunday, I would prefer him. In the event in which you're not able to get that, and he's still questionable, still a game time decision, I just play Laporta on Monday. Thank you. Earl sends in a question, says, half PPR, I need 1. Cup, McMillan, or Ford. In a half PPR, I would play well, you know what? Between him and Ford, I don't actually know. Let's see here. Where do I have Ford projected at? As it currently stands, I currently have Jerome Ford ranked the highest. Ford will be number 1, McMillan will be 2, and Cup would be 3. Thank you. In a half PPR, of course. Appreciate it, Earl. Ryan Tank sends in a question, says, in a half PPR, flex 1, Madison, Cup, Tyreek Hill. Let's see where I have Tyreek comparison to Madison. As it currently stands, Tyreek Hill is still ahead of the bunch. If you wanted to pivot out of that game, Madison's the next best play. Thank you. Auntie Slayer sends in a question, says, in a full PPR, I need 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. McMillan, Jennings, Tracy, Dowdle, Okonkwo. In a full PPR, the way that I go about this, as your wide receiver, I'm playing Jennings. As your flex, I'm probably playing Okonkwo there. Thank you, Auntie Slayer. Next question says, Hurts got me knocked out of the chip, but we're still on. Okay, we're still going in another league. Got it, Auntie Slayer. Thank you. All right, Drew King sends in a question. It says, I had Chuba Hubbard, which is on the IR now. Should I start White, McMillan, or Tracy in the flex? I have running back Jacobson, Taylor. My wide receivers are London and Ridley and a half PPR. Okay, so if I was in your position, the way that I'd go about this, let me see. You have Rashad White and you have Tracy in a half PPR. Let me see where I have Tracy compared to like someone like Ridley in comparison. Okay, so this is the way that I'd go about it. If I was in your position, I'd legitimately play Tracy as your flex, and I'd play McMillan over Ridley. That's the way that I'd go about it. Now, if you were 100% in tune with the idea of playing Ridley this week, and that wasn't a variable pivoting option, then within your flex position, your best option is McMillan there. Thank you. All right, Rexton. Oh, actually, no, before I continue on, your next question says in a different league, half PPR. It says Connor, Cook, Jones in a half PPR. Connor, Cook, Jones, Hall, full PPR, completely different league. Got it. Of those available in a full PPR, it's either Jones or Cook. Depends on how you want to approach it. As it currently stands, full PPR. I've went back and forth on those two. I've kind of variably swapped it a little bit, but James Cook would be the preferred between him and Aaron Jones. So that's the direction I'd go in. Of those available 4 running backs, James Cook, Drew King. Thank you. All right, let's see. Rexton sends in a question. Says, "Sup, Andrew, questions in the chat." All right, Rexton, hopefully you can type that in again because I'm going to assume by the time you typed it in earlier, it's probably gone by now. So if you can, retype that question. Thank you. Let's see here. Wade sends in a question. Says, full PPR, Dobbs or Olave? I don't even know if Olave is going to play. In the event in which Olave does end up playing this week, I'd still play Dobbs ahead of him. Thank you. Eric Nixon sends in a question. Says, full PPR, Los Angeles Chargers or Miami? Los Angeles Chargers. Yeah, currently I would go with the Miami Dolphins defense. Next question says, pick RB2, wide receiver 2, and 3 for the flex. Okay. RB2, wide receiver 2, 3 for the flex. So you have Dowdle, Pollard, Mooney, McMillan, and Myers, and Judy. Cool. Your RB2 is going to be Pollard, assuming he plays. If he doesn't, then you pivot to Dowdle. But Pollard will be that RB2. Your wide receiver 2 is going to be McMillan, and the 3 players that I would play alongside of that would be Mooney, Myers, and Dowdle. So really, you're playing Dowdle, Myers, Pollard, Mooney, McMillan. Judy's your odd man out. Thank you. Gio Ortiz, we took care of that earlier. CJ Williams says Abdullah or Blackshear in a full PPR. In a full PPR, I would play Abdullah there, honestly. Pukamon sends in a question. Says, start JK over Aaron Jones or Breece Hall? No, I wouldn't. Well, in the case of Breece Hall, yes, because again, that's a half PPR format. If we're talking about a full PPR format, I prefer both those options over J.K. Dobbins. But I don't know what your format is. You didn't mention it within your question. Thank you. All right, Rexton, let's see if you typed in the live chat recently. Okay, Rexton says, all right, says PPR, should I keep McBride and London? I already have Chase, BTJ, and Bowers, or swap either for Thielen or Spears. I would not play Spears there. Am I playing McBride over Thielen is really the only question. The only reason I've kind of moved down on with Thielen over the course of this week is mainly that hamstring injury that's been keeping him limited. If I was in your position, I would play Thielen ahead of him. And I'd also play London there. So those would be my top 2 of the available 3. McBride, London, Thielen. I'd play Thielen and London. If you wanted to roll with McBride just in case, in order to be safe, because obviously Thielen was limited all week with that hamstring, you could pivot away from him. But I think he'll be pretty, perfectly healthy. Again, he was limited mainly because, again, you got to remember he's a 34-year-old wide receiver, and we're in week 17 now, so obviously they need to keep him limited to keep him healthy for the upcoming game. Thank you. All right, we took care of that. We're moving on. Let's move Rexton off the list as we've taken care of his question. The next question comes in after Pukamon. We had Francisco Santos, who says Hurts is out, Justin Herbert or Bo Nix for my pickup. I pick up Bo Nix and I play him today. Thank you. John Thompson says full PPR, Hall, Sutton, or Jennings. Let me see where I have Hall in comparison to Sutton in a full PPR. As it currently stands in a full PPR, I currently have Breece Hall ranked higher. That's the direction that I would suggest you go in. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from David Morgan, who says, Superflex, PPR, Rodgers or May? I prefer to play Drake May. I have the Chargers defense. I would still play Drake May there. I don't know if I can variably trust Aaron Rodgers, especially in kind of the weather situation that he's going to be in. Nocturnal Gaming sends in a question, says, full PPR, Flex 1, Ridley, Spears, or Downs? Ridley, Spears, or Downs? As of right now, I'd only play Spears if Pollard was out. I'd only play Downs if Flacco was in. Otherwise, you play Ridley. Thank you. Says I have Chigozimo Okonkwo tight end already. Yep, that's fine. Let's fire them both up. Mason Rudolph's a solid enough quarterback to be able to support both. Thank you. Johnny Klein sends in a question. Says PPR for the championship. Says Jaden Reed, Jamison Williams, higher ceiling over Adam Thielen, Jalen McMillan. I'm leery of the rain games. Charbonnet screwed me. I'm behind. Yeah, look, if you're looking for a higher upside or ceiling of production, Jamison Williams certainly can accomplish that with one singular reception. Obviously, Jalen McMillan over the course of the last couple games here has been very much so touchdown implicated. Adam Thielen, again, in a game in which there will probably be no rushing opportunities for that, or at least efficient rushing upside for the Carolina Panthers offense. It should lead to a far more potential pass-heavy approach. Adam Thielen should be implicated for a little bit more. So if I was still in your position, I'd keep the Adam Thielen / McMillan combo. If you were going to pivot away from one of these players in favor of Jameson, it would be benching McMillan for him. Thank you. Dom sends in a question, says Marv or Tracy, half PPR. I'd prefer to play Tracy. Next question, I says, or more like context, says I had Nico, Charbonnet, and Fairbairn SMH. Yeah, considering that scenario, if you're already projected to lose by 1,000,000 points, you might just play Marvin Harrison just to hope that maybe he scores a huge touchdown over the course of this game over the top of that Rams defense as he did earlier this season, just because you are down so many points. I think that might be the play just to try to get the upside. Because if you're looking for floor of production, Tracy is the better play, ultimately because of total touch opportunity. But in the case of trying to find that upside, in your circumstance, Marv might be your answer, Dom. I think that's the way that I'd go about it, considering your circumstance. Parker A sends in a question, says, can you expand on Kittle over McBride? Yeah, purely just touchdown upside. Unfortunately, over the course of the season, McBride has not scored a receiving touchdown. The only times that he has scored a touchdown is either one, jumping on the ball in the end zone because Connor fumbled into the end zone. So he jumped on the ball and scored a rushing touchdown. And then the other time was a jet sweep in which they quite literally handed him off the ball. So not a single time this season has he scored a receiving touchdown. His upside is limited because of that circumstance in comparison to someone like Kittle, who certainly get himself a lot of upside within the red zone conversation, considering the running back troubles that this offense has had in comparison. Thank you. All right, moving on. We had CJ504 who says, my opponent foolishly claimed victory after I had Nico and Kaimi Fairbairn doing nothing versus his Kelsey. Days later, his CeeDee Lamb, Alvin Kamara, and Chuba Hubbard get ruled out. Now he's tilting. Talk about a jinx. I mean, that is as unfortunate of a scenario that it could possibly transpire. I feel bad for the guy that you're playing against because, I mean, I would feel pretty good too if I was playing against the Kaimi Fairbairn and Nico Collins stack. But man, hey, best of luck to you, CJ. Let's hope that you bring it home. Thank you. K3 sends in a question, says Evans or McLaurin. Says I have Baker. Between the two of them, I would prefer to play Evans. Next question says Hawkinson or Chigozimo Okonkwo. I would prefer to play Chigozimo Okonkwo there. Thank you. Dr. Turbo sends in a question, says full PPR Drake London or Trey McBride for the flex spot. Let me see where I have these two ranked in comparison to one another. As it currently stands, Drake London is the highest ranked of the two. Thank you. Next question, it says, I already have Bowers at tight end. Also, thank you for all the information this season. It got me to the chip. No problem, Turbo. As of right now, I'd lean towards Drake London. Again, a pass-heavy event, most likely being the case. But the only issue being that the potential of weather being an impact. I know that Marshawn Lattimore is inactive, which obviously elevates the potential of Drake London. If you're trying to avoid all weather concern, you would play with McBride. Otherwise, my primary suggestion would be London there. Thank you. Relax and, Relax, chill, sleep. Sends in a question. Says, I'm scared to play London. Look at that. There it is. Just right after your question. Says, weather, rookie quarterback, good opponent. Am I crazy to play Jameson Williams on Monday? I don't think you're crazy. I think that there's certainly a possibility in which Jameson Williams could live up to the potential of what Drake London could possibly present to us this week. But Jameson has to score a touchdown. That's it. So you have to 100% rely on him scoring a touchdown. If you want to take that risk variably, absolutely, you can go for it. Are you crazy to do so? No, you're not crazy. Because I can't see the argument for it. Just like in the same way in which I was saying earlier, if you want to avoid the rain situation with Drake London, you play McBride in the case of Dr. Turbo. So if you're trying to avoid the situation of weather, again, you don't have to make this decision until tomorrow, mainly because, again, you'll be able to see what the weather looks like prior to that game starting. And if, in fact, it's not up to your par, you can just pivot to playing Jameson on Monday. Thank you. Mr. Coyote5 sends in a question. Says, full PPR Thielen over Dobbins. I would probably do so. Let me just check my rankings really quickly. I would. Yes, I would play Thielen there. Thank you. Next question comes in from Doug Lamb, who says, I'm super torn, Andrew, in a full PPR Cup or Marvin Harrison. I see your rankings, and I have Cup higher, but I don't feel confident in Cup. Please explain why. Yeah, look, the primary issue that I really have between Cup and someone variably here's the issue with Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison is a touchdown or bust kind of player. That is where he is currently at within his career. Unfortunately, that is the case. As for the case of Cup, last week, this most recent week in which we saw Carolina take on this Cardinals defense, we knew that Adam Thielen was going to play well, not because of a high volume of opportunity, but primarily because this Cardinals defense has struggled against slot receiving options. The thing that moves Cup down the list primarily does deal with the fact that Puka Nacua also has himself a lot of contributions within the slot receiving role. So that certainly could play an impact into limiting the upside of potential for Kupp. But between the two of them, the slot receiving role certainly has found a lot of success recently against that Cardinals defense. Jackson Smith and Jigba doing a lot of damage himself in weeks prior. So as of right now, I think Kupp could very seamlessly fill into that role and target that specific weak point of the defense. That's why I've considered him as a higher ranked player. I know his most recent struggles has definitely been something that keeps us worried about his his situation. That's why you're super torn on the on the circumstance here. But I would suggest you do play Kupp. Excuse me. Auntie Slayer sends in a question, says, scratch that. Full PPR, I need one wide receiver, one flex. McMillan, Jennings, J.K. Dobbins, Tracy Dowdle, Okonkwo. Thanks and happy birthday. Thank you, Auntie Slayer. Okay. One wide receiver, one flex, full PPR. Let me see where I have Jennings really quickly. If I was in your position, I'd be playing Jennings in a full PPR alongside of J.K. Dobbins. That's the way that I'd go about it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Silver Rapture sends in a question. Says, Seattle's game had a 90% chance of rain, but an accumulation of 0.01 inches per hour. Accumulation matters, not the percentage chance of the rain. Thanks. Yep. Appreciate it, Silver. Appreciate it. Again, this is the thing. The projection of the rain, yes, it's not even a matter of like that is how much it's going to rain. It's more like the area of the affected area that could potentially see rain. So it's not even like, oh, there's a 90% chance of it raining. It's a 90% chance of the area in some parts of the area seeing rain. So again, there's no guarantee. This is why I always say that, yes, we're worried about weather, but look at the game before it starts. Go look at an actual live look from someone in the crowd or, a broadcast, something of that exchange to give us a better understanding as to what the weather could potentially look like in that circumstance, because oftentimes the percentages kind of depict a different narrative in comparison to what reality is. Thank you. Niner86 sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR, I lost Lamb. I'm starting BTJ. I need some help to pick. Do I start Kupp or Neighbors? I play Neighbors there. Or I need to pick up McMillan, Wicks, Dobbs from the waivers, Darnold or Mayfield. I play Darnold there. I play Neighbors there. You're good to go, Niner86. Thank you. All right, let's hear Bumpy all over. Says, in a full PPR, Bucky's my RB1. I need an RB2 and a flex. White, Spears, Myers, Ridley, Blackshear. I would suggest playing White as your RB2. If Pollard is inactive, Spears would take over. Within your flex position, I'd suggest playing Ridley there. So Ridley and White, unless, of course, Pollard is inactive, you play Spears and Ridley. Thank you. Adrian Michael sends in a question. Says, I got hurt by Charbonnet and just lost Chuba Hubbard. Gibbs is my RB1. But now I need a wide receiver one and a flex in a half PPR. Jennings, Neighbors, Thielen, McMillan, Spears. Cool. Of those available options, in a half PPR, the way that I would go about it would be playing Neighbors and Thielen. The only time I would variably change that is if in the event in which Pollard was out, you'd go Neighbors alongside of Spears. As for Los Angeles versus the Las Vegas defense, I currently have the Los Angeles Chargers one spot ahead of them as registered on screen. Thank you. Tomas sends in a question. Says, greetings and salutations from Germany. I'm in the finals in a 14-team full PPR. 2 questions. Number 1, Josh Allen with bad weather or Bo Nix. I prefer to play Josh Allen there. Next question, J.K. Dobbins or Garrett Wilson in the flex. I'd play J.K. Dobbins there. Thank you very much, Tomas. Appreciate it, brother. All right, James sends in a question. James, nothing attached to it. Hopefully you typed in the live chat recently. If you did, I can go ahead and check that out in just a moment. We had a follow-up from Gio Ortiz also in the chat, but nothing attached to it as well. So we'll check those out in just a moment. Both of you, if you can, do me a favor, type in the live chat so I can get to those questions. Until then, Spencer sends in a question. Says, full PPR, start 1. Downs with Flacco, Waddle with cold weather with Tua and re-injury risk, or Garendo with a bad script versus the 49ers. In the event in which Flacco is active, it's Downs. Otherwise, you play Garendo. Thank you. Michael sends in a question. Says, pick one in the flex. Spears, Ridley, McMillan, Breece Hall, Ford. If I'm playing one of these options, I'm playing Breece Hall. I'd only ever play Spears ahead of him if Pollard was out. Thank you. Bryant Keebler sends in a question. Bryant, let me just reload my YouTube here because it just crashed. Classic enough. Let's see if I go back to that. Gio, I see your question in the live chat. I'll take it out in just a moment. Okay, Brian Keebler says, I lost Njoku and Kate Otten, so I keep, I'm deep diving. It says Disley or Atkins. Thanks for all the help this season. Disley would be the preferred. As of right now, I have Disley ranked higher. If Tyler Conklin is not available, you take Disley. Otherwise, I would prefer to play Tyler Conklin. He is higher ranked than both. Thank you. All right, let's go back to the live chat here really quickly. Gio Ortiz, I believe I saw your name there. All right, Gio says, I lost Chuba Hubbard in 2 of my leagues. PPR on the waivers, I have Antonio Gibson, Jaleel McLaughlin, Mike Boone as my best options for this league. In a PPR flex, so if I have to pick up and play one of those players, I'm probably picking up and playing Antonio Gibson, which again is really rough, but I think it is the best option of the bunch. As for your next question, it says full PPR flex, Thielen, Reed, Mooney, Madison, McMillan, Ford. Of those available in the flex, I'm playing Thielen. And as for Flacco or Higgins, again, you're not going to know whether or not Flacco is available until tomorrow, so you have to play Higgins today. Thank you. Appreciate it, Gio. Yeah, that is a rough situation to be in, to say the least. All right, let's see if James typed in a question in the live chat. Let's see here. Don't see anything from James recently. James, if you could do me a favor, type in the live chat. I'd be greatly appreciated, brother. Until then, I will continue answering questions. All right, the next question comes in from, I believe it was Coyote. Mr. Coyote 5 says, Kraft or Ferguson? I would rather play Kraft over Ferguson, correct. Thank you. Baba Booey sends in a question, says PPR, one wider. Actually, let me check really quickly. In a full PPR, do I have Kraft over Ferguson? I do have Kraft still over Ferguson. I have Ferguson over Hawkinson, but I don't have him over Kraft at the moment. Thank you. Okay. Next question. Baba Booey says, I need a wide and wide receiver and one flex in a full PPR. We have Tyreek Hill, Kupp, and Aaron Jones. As of right now, of those available, Aaron Jones has to play as your flex. Tyreek Hill or Kupp, considering the weather concerns, as it currently stands, I'd probably play Tyreek Hill. But if you were just like in a, I'm not trying to risk anything situation, you'd probably just play Kupp and Aaron Jones just to avoid any sort of meltdown tomorrow that could potentially take place. Otherwise, I would suggest playing Tyreek alongside Aaron Jones there. Carlos Laurie sends in a question, says my question is in the chat. Thank you, Carlos. Let me check that out right now. Before I get there, Chronofied sends in a question, says full PPR and 0.3 per rushing attempt. Should I start at quarterback? Darnold or Nix? I prefer to play Darnold there. Pick one for the flex. Thielen, Tyron Tracy Jr. In a 0.3 per rushing attempt full PPR, I'd still play Thielen there. So as of right now, I play Thielen. Thank you. POV4X sends in a question. Says, I need two wide receivers. Kupp, Neighbors, Wilson, Ladd, Evans, full PPR. I would play Ladd and I would play Evans in a full PPR. Thank you. All right, let's go to the live chat. Let's see if I can find James. James, you in here somewhere, brother? Don't see anything from James. Then we'll continue on to Carlos Laurie. Hopefully you typed in the chat recently. Carlos, I don't see anything from you either, which is concerning. So if you guys can, type in those questions. Until then, we'll move on. Thank you. All right, the next question comes in from Jaden Montano, who says, Neighbors, London, or Thielen. I prefer to play Neighbors out of the bunch. Colts or Buccaneers defense. I will play the Colts there, primarily because, again, Drew Lock is playing quarterback against them. In a negative game script, he will have many of opportunities to prove that that offensive line cannot hold anybody, and additionally that he is a turnover machine. Thank you. Kevin Perdomo sends in a question, says, hey, Drew, thanks for all the work this year. I need help in terms of PPR upside. Quarterback, Purdy or Nix. I prefer to play Purdy. Tight end, Laporta or Okonkwo. I prefer to play Laporta there. And flex, Spears, Garendo, or Kendra Miller-Abdullah. As of right now, Garendo will be your starter. The only time I would pivot away from him is in the event in which Pollard is inactive and Spears would be the next best player. Thank you. Nick sends in a question, says Lutz or Reichard for kicker. I prefer to play Reichard. Again, the rankings are on screen. That's the direction I go in. Thank you. Enemies within says pick two, Connor, Dobbins, Hill, considering the questionable tags. As of right now, I play Dobbins and Connor. Thank you. Lethal Jake sends in a question, says any world in PPR you like Marvin Harrison Jr. more than Jacoby Myers? Sure, I don't mind that. Again, in a PPR, as it currently stands, Marvin Harrison is the distance between him and Myers is pretty considerable, but I don't mind it. Again, the pure difference maker between those two, if Marvin Harrison's able to score a touchdown, again, that makes the world difference. If he's not able to do so, I don't expect him to be able to get more receptions and or yardage potentially than Jacoby Myers within the given week. But yeah, I think there's a universe out there, whether we're living in it, or not, to be determined, in which Marvin Harris could very easily outscore Myers within the given week when given ample opportunity. Thank you. Joey Boy sends in a question, says half PPR start two, J.K. Dobbins, Sutton, Neighbors, Jennings, McMillan. In a half PPR of those available, J.K. Dobbins and Neighbors are my two highest ranked. Thank you. We had a question that came in from Mark Kurgan. Nothing attached to it. Mark, if you can, type in the live chat when you get an opportunity. Mark Kurgan. And then we also had a question from Class of 97. Hopefully you could type in the chat as well. Please appreciate it. Thank you. So we also had a question from Sam, who says in a full PPR, Chigozimo Okonkwo or Devontae Smith. I'd play Chigozimo Okonkwo there in a full PPR. Thank you. Joey Ford sends in a question. Says Conklin, Durham, and or Disley. I'd play Conklin there. Thank you. Martin sends in a question. Says standard, flex, Jennings, Pollard, Madison, Myers. Of those available in a standard league, I would play Madison number 1, Pollard 2, Jennings 3, Myers 4. Thank you. Ron Scoff sends in a question. Says full PPR, Bucky, Chase Brown, or BTJ. In a full PPR, I believe I have Chase Brown ranked the highest. Let me confirm this. As it currently stands, Chase Brown is the highest ranked of those available. Thank you. Nick Walker has a follow-up. Says Philadelphia or Miami defense. I prefer Philly as of right now. Says I'm really in two minds. Thanks. Yeah, listen, I think both are fantastic plays. You can flip a coin on the matter. As of right now, in the absence of CeeDee Lamb, I truly think it's going to be difficult for the Cowboys to move the ball. AG sends in a question. Says full PPR. I have running backs JG, JT, JJ, need flex, or Evans. You have JG. Okay, so JJ I know is Josh Jacobs. JT is Jonathan Taylor. Who the heck is JG? Let me look at the running backs here. Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay, got it. So you have all three of those guys. I play all of them over Evans. So play all three of those running backs, brother. Thank you. All right, let me go back to the live chat really quickly before I get to Eric's question, see if any of these questions have been typed in. Okay, so nothing there in terms of potential. Oh, let's just do this. Nothing. Okay, so we'll take this person off the list. Okay, Carlos Laurie. Let's see if you typed anything in the live chat, brother. Carlos Laurie says, hey, Andrew, I'm setting up my lineup in a full PPR. We have Chase Brown, Achane, Higgins, St. Brown, Kyron in the flex, Colts defense on the bench, Dobbins and Packers. Okay, got it. On the bench, got it. Your thoughts. So you're playing Chase Brown, Achane, Higgins, St. Brown, Kyron. Yeah, you're good to go. I would not change anything. You're good to go. Fire them up, and good luck. I think you're probably going to win this week, considering your roster is absolutely ridiculous. All right, Mark Kurgan, let's see if you typed in live chat. He did. It says Neighbors or Dobbins in the flex. Depends on scoring format. Let me check my half PPR compared to my full, and I'll tell you right now. All right, so as of right now in a half PPR, I currently have Dobbins ranked ahead of him. As for a full PPR, I think it may be the opposite, but I will confirm it as we stand. In a full PPR, I have Neighbors ahead. So it just purely depends on format. I don't know what your format is, but hopefully that helps you. If it's a standard scoring league, at that point, you play Dobbins as well. Thank you. All right, Class of 97 sends in a question. Says, who do I start at wide receiver 2? Terry, Adams, or McConkey? Okay, of those three, I would play Terry McLaurin. Actually, you know what? I think it depends on a couple of factors, but actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, it's probably just Devontae Adams play there. There's probably a higher likelihood that Terry McLaurin could disappear in comparison because Adams has to do something this week. I mean, really, there's no other offensive piece that gets the ball more as of late. So, Class of 97 says, message retracted. You're making my life a living hell here. Devontae Adams is my primary suggestion. Until you retype in that question, I will wait patiently. Thank you. We'll continue on until you type that question in. We move on to a question that comes in from... We took care of that one. Eric sends in a question. Says, I need upside. Christmas games killed me. Thinking of starting J.K. Dobbins today at one of my flex spots in place of Jamison Williams or Drake London. I would suggest you doing so. That sounds good to me. PPR league, am I crazy? Nope. I would play J.K. Dobbins and Drake London there if I was in your position. Thank you very much, Eric. Appreciate it, brother. Jonathan McMaster sends in a question. Says, half point PPR, Chigozimo Okonkwo, Kincaid, or Hawkinson. I'd play Chigozimo Okonkwo there. Thanks, brother. First championship in a long time. So stoked and /stressed. Yeah, good to go. Play Okonkwo. Appreciate it. Living in Mass says, James Conner or J.K. Dobbins. I play James Conner there. Thank you. JMac27 says, in a half PPR, down by 13.5 projected due to Nico Collins, that's Fair Baron, and my opponent is stacked. Go for upside with Evans or over Kyron, Bucky, or Chase Brown. Nope, I would play all three running backs. You're good to go there. Thank you. David Canby sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, Dobbins or Breece Hall? In a full PPR, I have Breece Hall one spot ahead of Dobbins. I change it variably because I do expect Breece Hall to get a little bit more exposure within the receiving opportunities that could be kind of sent in his direction. In comparison to Dobbins, who may see himself a little bit less of a receiving upside, considering Kamani Vidal's usage in that role as of late. Volk21 says, pick 2 in a PPR, Tracy Ford, Brian Robinson Jr., or Garendo. If I was in your position, I would play Ford and Brian Robinson there. Thank you. Parker A sends in a question. Says, I'm worried about T. Higgins, 2 injuries, given his history, plus Surtain. Okay. Do I start Ridley, London, Rudolph, Tracy to be safe? I mean, as of right now, I wouldn't go as far as going. Yeah, I wouldn't do that personally. If I was in your position, I think your best receiving options are Higgins 1, London 2, Ridley 3. Rudolph, obviously, at quarterback is fine. But as for playing Tracy to be safe, I wouldn't go as far as that. I mean, again, you are the final decision maker of your team. But as of right now, I would prefer to play Higgins in this scenario. Thank you, Parker. All right, Cameron Mabin. Thank you very much, Cameron. Appreciate it, my man. Cameron, let's see what you have here. Making it to the chip here. Let's see what you have. I'm going to assume that you typed in the live chat. Hopefully that is the case. All right, Cameron, let's see what we have. It says full PPR, Ford, Brian Robinson, or Tyrone Tracy Jr. In a full PPR, it does change variably. Let me see what I have here as it currently stands. Of the 3 available, the current iteration of my rankings consists of Brian Robinson 1, Ford number 2, and Tracy number 3. I could justify, because as it currently stands, I have Brian Robinson at 16 and Jerome Ford at 17 in a full PPR. I could justify playing Jerome Ford in that scenario. I probably won't, though. I'll probably just play Brian Robinson. Again, in the rain situation, it'd probably be a little bit more of a run-heavy effect for that offense, similar to a Jerome Ford kind of week, but the only difference being that for some reason, Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, continues to insist on utilizing Devontae Foreman within the red zone, which obviously is a potential threat to Jerome Ford's upside. So I would play Brian Robinson. That's my suggestion there, Cameron. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. All right, continuing on. Let's see here. Next question rolls in from, let me find it in the live chat. Actually, you know what? I wanted to see if, okay, we took care of that. Okay, class of 97. That's who we needed to answer because that question got like redacted or something. Class of 97 says, sorry, brother. What happened? Retype in your question, 97, if you can. Thank you. Whenever you get a chance. Appreciate it. All right, until then, we continue on to David Morgan, who says full PPR, pick 1. Ridley, Mooney, Ertz, Rodgers, or May. All right, of the available in a point per reception format. Okay, so when you say Rodgers, May, are these all implicated to play within the super flex role? If that's the case, David Morgan, I would suggest you just play Drake May today. That would be my suggestion. If this is 2 different positions, like one's a flex and one's a super flex, I'd go with Ridley and May. But otherwise, if it is all one position, play Drake May. Thank you. Bot to Break sends in a question. Says full point per reception, flex, Juwan Jennings, what is that? Tony Pollard or Tyrone Tracy. In a full PPR, I'm playing Juwan Jennings there. Thank you. Ryan sends in a question. Nothing attached to it. Ryan, hopefully you can type in the live chat. It'd be greatly appreciated. Ryan Melman. I'm going to go ahead and look that up in a moment. We had a question sent into the live chat. Can't read your name. Don't even know how I would read it. Maybe I can. Hold up. Let me use the power of Google. Hun. Okay. So your name is Hun. Hun sends in a question. Says full PPR. 1 running back, 1 flex. Addison, Ford, Dobbins, Hill. Of those available in a full PPR as it currently stands, I would play Dobbins alongside of Addison there. Hun, thank you. Matthew Wallace says start 2. Dowdle, Stevenson, Shakir, Reed, half PPR. As it currently stands, I don't really love the idea of playing either of those running backs at all. Let me see where I have them in comparison in a half PPR to someone like Reed and Shakir. As it currently stands, I have Reed and Shakir both ranked higher. That's the direction I would lead you in. Matthew Wallace, thank you. Tommy Vu says, hey, Andrew, how are you today? I'm as good as I could possibly get with the unfortunate news that Chuba Hubbard is out for the remainder of the season. But, we're fighting, brother. We're fighting. It says full PPR, pick 1 for the flex. Breece Hall, Juwan Jennings, J.K. Dobbins. Thanks, brother. Okay, so of those available, I believe I have Breece Hall ranked the highest. I, in fact, do. So that would be my suggestion of those available options that we could go with. Thank you. Let me see. Did I actually... Where the heck is Breece Hall compared to Juwan Jennings? Yeah. Breece Hall is 32. Juwan Jennings is 33. J.K. Dobbins is 35. They are all back-to-back-to-back in my rankings. Breece Hall still number 1, but 1 spot ahead of Jennings and 2 spots ahead of J.K. Dobbins. So really, it's kind of a... You have no wrong answers here. Let's just hope for upside for all 3 situations, but I would go with Breece Hall there. Thank you. William Craft says, need 1 for the flex. Debo, J.K., and McMillan. I would go with J.K. Dobbins there in a half PPR, and I'd go with Debo in a full PPR. Thank you. Okay, BW also had a question, nothing attached to it. Hopefully you can type in the live chat, and I can get to that question. Thank you, BW. All right, we took care of that. Let's go ahead and let's travel back. Let's see if Class of 97 typed in anything as well, and we'll be good to go. Class of 97, anything? Nothing. Okay, good to go. Ryan Melman. Ryan says, full PPR, Jamison Williams, Blackshear, Kendre Miller, or Vidal. I'd play Jamison Williams on Monday. Thank you, brother. If it's Javonte Williams, though, if it is Javonte, theoretically speaking, if that's who Jay Williams was, because there's a possibility that that is the case. In the event in which it is Javonte Williams, at that point, I would just play Blackshear. Thank you. All right, then we have BW. Let's see if BW sent in a question in the live chat. BW says, Tracy, Ford, Cup, half PPR, pick 2. As of right now, it says, I'm already starting Puka Nacua for what it's worth. Okay, understood. Let me see where I have Cup ranked in comparison to the other 2.5 PPR, and I'll let you know right now as to which way we should go about this. So as it currently stands, I have both of the running backs ranked higher than him. So if you wanted to encapsulate all the receiving upside of that offense, if you're like, listen, because I have Puka, I want to make sure I don't have any leakage in which there's a potential in which Cup steals a touchdown or something of that exchange. At that point, I'd play Ford alongside of Cup. But otherwise, my 2 highest ranked in a half PPR are Tracy and Ford. Thank you. All right, we took care of BW. We're good to go there. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Class of 97, are you in here anywhere? Potentially nothing. Okay, so you're done. I'm going to assume maybe you type in something later. Otherwise, we're good to go, brother. Alrighty, we'll continue on with the next question coming in from, we took care of all those, we took care of that, Matthew Alvu, BW. All right, Cesar Sanchez sends us a question. Thank you very much, Cesar, I appreciate it, brother. It says, Bills or the Chargers defense, as it currently stands, like it is ranked currently on screen, I have the Bills 1 spot ahead of the Chargers defense. That's what I would suggest. Play the Buffalo Bills. Thank you. Raider Alex sends in a question, says, I need some upside in a full PPR. Okay, let's see what you have here, brother. All right. Says I have a 35% chance of winning. 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. I have Tyreek, Neighbors, London, Garrett Wilson, Sutton, and Breece Hall, and Aubrey as my kicker. Okay. In a full PPR, if we're going for ultimate upside of potential, I think there's multiple ways in which we can go about this. If you're going for ultimate upside, I think the way that you probably accomplish that is something like Neighbors, Tyreek, and Sutton, I think is the way that you accomplish it, to be honest. Now, let me see here really quickly. Yeah, I think that's the way we do it. You could theoretically play London instead of Tyreek Hill there. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make, though. If I was in your position, looking for ultimate upside with a 35% chance to win, I'd go Neighbors, Tyreek, and Sutton. Thank you. All right, we took care of that. We had Dylan send in a question, says Chargers or Raiders defense. I need upside. If we're looking for, okay, look, I think the Chargers have a safer floor ultimately. If you're looking for ultimate upside, if we're talking about I think the Raiders have the higher upside technically because of quarterback play. Tyler, easy peasy, GG, sends in a question. What a name. Full PPR, Connor or Wilson? I'd rather play Connor. Thank you. Blue Jay and Class of 97 sent in follow-ups. Nothing attached to them. I will check the live chat in just a moment just to confirm what your questions are. Let's see here. Until then, Kaiser says happy birthday. Thank you very much, sir. Says full PPR, Dobbins, Tony, Tyjae Spears, Marvin Harrison Jr., Higgins. Of those available options in a full PPR, I am playing T. Higgins there. Thank you. In the event in which you weren't comfortable playing T. Higgins, the next best option, theoretically speaking, would be Dobbins in about 27 minutes. Jimmy in the Clouds says full PPR flex, Evans or Achane. I would prefer to play Achane there. Thank you. Mike C sends in a question, says half PPR pick 2. Breece Hall, Jawan Jennings, J.K. Dobbins. In a half PPR, I'm suggesting both running backs. Play Hall and Dobbins. Thank you. Edward sends in a question. Thank you very much, Edward. Don't see anything attached to it, so hopefully I can check the live chat, and hopefully it'll be sitting there. Appreciate it, brother. All right, let's see what we have here. So let's start with Blue Jay in the live chat. Blue Jay says, I'm facing Caleb Williams already. I think May roll with May over Bryce. Yeah, I think that's a great play, Blue Jay. I think that's probably the best way of going about it as of this week. Thank you, sir. All right, Class of 97. Let's see if he typed in anything new. It says, in a 2 QB league, quarterbacks are Allen, Baker, and Love. Cool, I play Allen and Baker there. Running backs are Kyron, Connor, J.K. Dobbins, Pollard, Tracy. Cool, I play Kyron and Connor as your 1-2 combo. If you needed to flex, J.K. Dobbins could be a potential option there. Wide receivers, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Terry McLaurin, you have Adams, you have McConkey in a non-PPR. Cool. It says, would you start in the flex? Thanks. Okay. Interesting. In a standard scoring format where you get 0 points per reception, I would absolutely want to play a running back within the flex position. So if I was in your... Shit. Okay. This is a little bit tricky here. If I was in your position as it currently stands, the way that I'd go about this most likely, class of 97, I'd probably play Amon-Ra and Terry as your wide receivers. I'd go Kyron, Connor, and J.K. Dobbins as your 2 running backs in your flex. Allen and Baker as your quarterbacks. And that's the way I go about it, because in a standard league where I need total touchdown upside, I think the running backs are a little bit more implicitly capable of doing so. And additionally, they get a better volume of overall touches, which yardage-wise is a little bit more complementary. So as of right now, Kyron, Connor, J.K., Amon-Ra, Terry McLaurin, both those quarterbacks, Allen Baker, you're good to go. Thank you, class. Appreciate it. Alrighty, let's see here. Edward sends in a question. Edward says, are you worried about James Conner being on a snap count? No, I mean, look, here's the thing. Think about it this way. They would not play James Conner for any reason at all if he was legitimately injured and on a snap count. And let me tell you why. Last week in the loss to the Carolina Panthers, unfortunately, the Arizona Cardinals were eliminated from NFL playoff contention. Therefore, they're quite literally not playing for anything outside of personal incentives for contract purposes and extra bonuses there. So ultimately, James Conner would not play. Very similar in which they shut down Chuba Hubbard just earlier this morning. They would have done the same thing to James Conner if he had not been healthy. But again, considering he is healthy enough to play, I would not anticipate the Arizona Cardinals to put him on a snap count, because quite frankly, why would they need to capture a victory here? You want to beat your division rival in the LA Rams? Sure. But ultimately, in the case of James Conner, if I was the Arizona Cardinals, I would shut him down and make sure that he gets whatever rest he needs and no aggravation of re-injury, because I don't want any surgeries this offseason for him. I want him to get healthy and ready to go for next year, because really they're going to need him, because they have a good chance of potentially winning just as many games, if not more. So I don't expect him to be on a snap count. As for your actual question, though, it says, I have to choose between him, J.K. Dobbins, and Jerome Ford. If I'm choosing one of the three, it says, can only play 2 of them. In that scenario, I'm playing James Conner and J.K. Dobbins today. We're good to go there, Edward. That is my suggestion. Thank you, sir. All right, after Edward's question, the next question comes in from Daniel Gonzalez. Daniel, thank you very much. It says, PPR, Hunter Henry or Okonkwo worried about the weather? Let's see, which weather are you worried about? Let's look at the New England Patriots game. It says chance of rain earlier this month. Okay, that's fine. And then as for the other game, for Tennessee versus Jacksonville, let's see what the weather looks like in that game. Says definite showers. Both of them are going to be rain implicated. Every single game this week, the only games that have no weather implication, as it currently stands, LA Rams indoors, New Orleans indoors, Vikings indoors, and San Francisco on Monday. Every other game has weather implicated. So really, there's no dodging the weather at this point. So if I was in your position, ultimately, I'm just going to play Okonkwo there. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question from Matt. Murati? Yeah, Murati. Let's see here. Matt, where is your question in the chat? Matt says Ford or Thielen in the flex full PPR. I would prefer to play Thielen there. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it, brother. All right, moving on from Matt Murati's question, we had one that came in from Josh Holt, who says Tua in the bad weather or May and Young on waiver. As of right now, if you're worried about the weather, again, like I mentioned just moments ago, every game has an implication of weather. If you wanted to play one of the alternative options, you certainly can. As of right now, I wouldn't go. Again, I don't mind the idea of playing a May or Young. I think they both played incredibly well over the course of the most recent weeks, especially Bryce Young there. But as it currently stands, I would suggest playing Tua tomorrow. Thank you. Jake Michael sends in a question. Says, Brandon Cooks, Wan'Dale Robinson, Coker need a solid floor. Depends on scoring for my brother. If we're playing in a full PPR, I'm 100% going to play Wan'Dale Robinson. Otherwise, if it's a half PPR standard, I'll take Brandon Cooks there. Thank you. Jake Michael said full PPR. I will play Wan'Dale Robinson there in that case. Thank you. Obi-Juan Kenobi sends in a question. Says, I'm in the finals. Just wanted to thank you. No problem. Glad to help. Hopefully we can bring home the chip this season. Carlos Laurie had a follow-up. Says, full PPR. Flex. Should I play Kraft or Judy? I suggest playing Kraft there. Again, I do not trust Judy because I cannot trust that DTR can complete passes down the field. Again, when Judy is finishing a game with 1-2 receptions, that is not enough for the caliber of receiver that he has demonstrated to be within that offense. Again, the quarterback is 100% the contingency issue. Play Tucker Kraft there. Thank you. Justin sends in a question. Says, J.K. Dobbins or Cup full PPR? I would play J.K. Dobbins there as of this morning. Thank you. All right, we continue on. We had a question that came in from B4Work, who sends in a question. Let me see if I can find it in the live chat. B4Work. Says, hey, Andrew. I have Chase, A.J. Brown, St. Brown, and Brian Thomas Jr. I'm stuck between James Cook and Bucky. Thanks, as always. So, if I had to play one between Bucky Irving and James Cook, I would suggest you play Bucky Irving. Again, the Carolina Panthers can't stop a soul within the running game. Bucky Irving last time against them went for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an incredible performance. Bucky Irving should do much of the same as of tomorrow's game. But as for your wide receivers, if you're starting all 4 of them, I think that is the right choice in a full PPR, and play Bucky Irving alongside of them. You're good to go, brother. All right, continuing on, we had a question that came in from Justin, who says, I can't decide between the Chargers and Raiders defense. Please help. Yeah, as of right now, I have the Chargers defense ranked higher. I would continue to go in that direction. Again, many people have asked, like, I'm down a lot of points. I need Omega upside. If we're looking for Omega upside, considering the quarterback play technically of the Saints, theoretically speaking, the Raiders could have a higher upside, but they also could have, they, I believe, have a lower floor of a defense, because, again, their defense as a whole isn't great either. So at least the Chargers defense is actually good. That is why they have the higher floor of production, and that's why I'm trusting them, even against a potential matchup against Drake May. Thank you. All right, Drew Hanna sends in a question. Drew, thank you very much, sir. Let's see if I can find your question in the live chat. I don't see anything attached to it, and nor do I see anything typed in. Drew, if you could do me a favor, type that into the live chat. That'd be greatly appreciated, so I can get to that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Until then, we had a question that came in from Sin Like Flynn, who says, I've got Garendo and Madison, but I also have Pollard and Spears on my bench. Do I stick with the former? Thanks as always, and Happy New Year. Thank you very much, Sin. I appreciate that. So, if I was in your situation, would I stick with the former or potentially play the latter? Let me see where I have Pollard in comparison. So, as it stands, Pollard is behind the former. So, yeah, I would play both what you currently have, Garendo and Madison. The only time that I would potentially make a swap is in the event in which Pollard is inactive and Spears is the lone back. At that point, I would play Spears ahead of Madison. Thank you. Peter VM7 sends in a question. Says, love you, brother. Thank you very much. Says, I wanted to say thank you for everything. Can you give me another reason as to start Laporta over Chikezimo Okonkwo? I like the matchup better for Chikezimo Okonkwo. 49ers defense versus the tight end scares me. Yeah, look, the primary reason that Chikezimo Okonkwo sits where he currently is, I mean, again, like I mentioned a little bit earlier before, almost every game this week outside of the LA Rams indoors, the Minnesota Vikings indoors, and the San Francisco versus Detroit game outdoors but still clear weather on Monday night. Those are the only games not implicated to be weather impacted. Chikezimo Okonkwo sure is probably going to get himself more of a target opportunity share within his respective offense, but Laporta being associated with an offense that is as touchdown upside potentially kind of implicated as they are, slightly edges out Chikezimo Okonkwo within my current projections. So that's primarily the reason. Touchdown upside, additionally on top of, and this is half PPR by the way, and additionally the weather potential impact. Thank you. All right, we had a question that came in from Ibrahim, who says, PPR bench 1, AJ Brown, Kupp, Juwan Jennings. If I'm benching 1, Kupp sits on the bench. Thank you. Jimmy Giant, says half PPR, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. Hall, AJ Brown, Neighbors, Kupp, Jennings, Debo. Cool. Of those available options, I am playing AJ Brown, I am playing Neighbors, and I have to figure out whether I'm playing Hall or Debo. Let me check right now. I am playing Hall, I believe. Wait, where's Debo? Nope, I'm playing Debo. So as of right now, I play, wait, where do I have Neighbors in comparison? Yep, I'm playing Neighbors. So actually, I play all 3 receivers here in your scenario here, Jimmy Giant. I'd play Hall, I'd play AJ Brown, Neighbors, and I'd play Debo. That's the way that I'd go about it. Thank you. Alexander Drucker sends in a question, says in a half PPR, I need a little bit of upside. Do I fire up McMillan and go with your rankings, or do I go with Kupp or Devontae Smith? Thank you as always. Yeah, look, the Kupp/Devontae Smith versus McMillan conversation, purely dependent on touchdown upside. That's what it's going to be the biggest difference. Because in terms of target opportunity share, comparatively to one another, they're all going to be in that same kind of range. Especially in comparison to what we saw like Devontae Smith last week with Kenny Pickett. If they're not going to be in situations where they're going to have to throw the ball much, especially if they take a commanding lead against that offense of the Cowboys that's not going to be able to put up very many points over the course of this weekend's matchup, it could limit Devontae Smith's upside. So it's really just between Kupp and McMillan. Based on McMillan's utilization within the red zone, his overall opportunity share of targets, he is the safer play of the bunch in my mind. So that's the direction I go in. But if you're looking for the potential of a breakout game, I guess you could find it in the case of Kupp and Devontae, but they're going to have to score touchdowns. Otherwise, I don't think they can compete comparatively. Fernando Perez sends in a question, says, PPR, Anthony Richardson playing, question mark? I have no clue. We'll know by tomorrow for sure. He did not practice a single time this week, which certainly does not bode well for him. If I was in your position, Fernando, I'd probably just play Stafford tonight just to be safe. If you have the availability of Flacco, that's fine. Here's my only context too as to maybe why I would avoid playing Anthony Richardson. I know where I have him ranked, but I have him there just so we can pose this conversation, okay? Just so we're all on the same page. I mentioned this last night when I live streamed here on the channel. If in fact Anthony Richardson is active tomorrow, my only concern is there a potential in which they take such a commanding lead against the Giants that they pull him? Like imagine they're up 28 points at the end of the first 3 quarters, and he has maybe 13 points of fantasy. What if they pull him there and they put in Flacco in the 4th quarter? Would that surprise anybody? Not really, right? So if he's dealing with a back and foot injury that is significant enough to potentially impact his upside, considering there is a possibility in which he could re-injure himself or even have a less of a limited rushing upside, additionally could be pulled in the 4th quarter, I think it's a better potential to just lean towards alternative options. In the case of Stafford having to play today, prior to knowing Anthony Richardson's status, that might be the way in which we go about it. Drew Hanna sends in his question. Okay, Drew, thank you. Says 3 flex slots. I have Connor, London, JMO, Marvin Harrison. Cool. I would absolutely play Connor and London. As for Marvin Harrison and JMO, I have to play JMO. He's been far too consistent comparatively. Marvin Harrison has a lot of ebbs and flows. Many of upsetting weeks, quite frankly, as of late. He has been given many of opportunities to score touchdowns, many of which he has not been able to haul down and bring in. Ultimately, between the two, if we're talking about touchdown upside, Jameson Williams has a higher implication for that. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Henry V or Henry V. Says, hey, Andrew, play 2 of 3, Laporta, Rachaad White, Okonkwo. As of this week, let me see where I have, actually it depends on format ultimately. Let me see where I have Okonkwo in comparison to him, like a full PPR. In a full PPR, I'm going to play Okonkwo there. In a half PPR, I'd play Rachaad White. So as of right now, depending on what your format is, Henry V, Laporta, Rachaad White, half PPR, Laporta and Okonkwo, full PPR. Standard league, I'll take Laporta and Rachaad White. Thank you. So that should be able to cover all the bases there. Auntie Slayer says Gibson is starting over Stevenson. Rank change. Again, we've heard it in the past in which they've said Gibson is starting over Stevenson. If you guys remember earlier this season, the exact same thing happened against the Miami Dolphins back in, I think, week 11. Let's hear NFL week. Let's just look up the Patriots. Patriots schedule. I don't know how to spell schedule, I guess. So earlier this season, in a game I think it was against the Miami Dolphins, week 5, not 11. The New England Patriots named Antonio Gibson the starting running back. Okay, in that game, Ramondre Stevenson ended with 89 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Antonio Gibson did jack all. So do not allow for the designation of, oh, this player's the starter to be the determining factor. If you guys remember last Sunday, we had the panic attack because they named they named Zach Charbonnet the quote-unquote starting running back and the captain of the team for the game. The guy didn't get a single touch until the 3rd quarter, okay? So do not let these like ceremonial designations skew your idea of potential. Thank you. Alfredo sends in a question. Freddie says, J.K. Dobbins over Connor in a full PPR. I would look. You're a Chargers guy. I would probably say I don't mind the idea of playing J.K. Dobbins, but I'm going to play Connor there in a full PPR. I also think that Connor's more implicated for receiving upside. But if I was in your position, considering you are the Chargers guy, we know that we want to bolt up. I don't mind the idea of playing J.K. Dobbins there just so that you have an even more enjoyable time watching that game. Tyler Easy Peasy GG sends in a follow-up question. Says Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen. I'd prefer to play Josh Allen there. Thank you. Barza Gaming sends in a question. Says full PPR wide receiver in a flex. We have Hall, Spears, Tracy, Mooney, and Jaden Reed. As of those available options, your wide receiver would be of the available. I'd go with Reed. As for your flex, I would go with Breece Hall. Thank you very much, Barza. Terry R sends in a question. Says half PPR Spears, Myers, Kupp, Reed, or Pollard if he plays. In the event in which Pollard plays, he would be the highest ranked player. Otherwise, you pivot to playing Spears. So that's the way that I'd go about it as of this week. Thank you. So basically, wait until tomorrow and figure out the designations there. Dylan Hewitt sends in a question. Castillo says, in a half PPR, estimated to win by 49%, pick 2 wide receivers in 1 flex. I have JMO, Garendo, Marvin Harrison, Reed, Shakir, Stevenson, Blackshear, and Downs. Thank you. Okay. So couple contingencies here. In the event in which Flacco starts tomorrow, Josh Downs would be a starter for your team at wide receiver. In the event in which that does not take place, I would suggest that you play Reed alongside, actually it's a half PPR. Let me see. Do I have Reed or I have Shakir ranked higher? One moment. I have Shakir 1 spot ahead. So as it currently stands, I would go with, well, you know what? Considering the weather, let's just go Reed. Yeah. Let's go Reed and... How do we want to go about this? At wide receiver, go Reed and JMO. Yeah. Reed and JMO at wide receiver. And then in the flex position, play Garendo. In the event in which Josh Downs plays tomorrow, you would play him over, probably play him over Garendo and just play 3 wide receivers there. That's the way that I go about it. Thank you. Jordan Cabot sends in a question, says comments. Okay, Jordan, let me see if I can find it in the live chat 1 second. Let's go here. Did I miss anybody's question? Okay, so Jordan Cabot is the only one. Okay, Jordan Cabot says full PPR Okonkwo over Jacoby Myers and Downs. Yes, assuming that Flacco doesn't play. Says Burrow or Flacco. I'd much rather play Burrow. Again, he plays today. We don't know whether the designation has been, made. Says Connor, Isaac Garendo, Kendre Miller, or Amir Abdullah. Pick one. I'd play Connor there. So again, your suggestion as of right now, Jordan, would be Okonkwo, unless Downs is going to have Flacco. Burrow, Connor. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, brother. Okay, we're 9 minutes away to the kickoff of this Chargers and New England Patriots game. At that point, I will be heading out, going to watch these games, and then I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Saturday. I will be back tomorrow morning, starting at 7 a.m. PST, to answer questions for the Sunday slate and Monday slate of games. Best of luck on this wonderful Saturday. Again, we're going to continue to answer questions for the next 8 minutes here until the kickoff. Let's see here. Gatlin Gunn says, ultimately, do you think Nix and Purdy will score similar stats in a standard 4-point per passing touchdown? Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll be very close. I don't think that they're... Yeah, I don't think that... Okay, so here's the thing. Similar stats... When you say similar stats, what is similar? Because I think that Purdy's probably putting up 20-plus points, while Nix is more of like a 17 to 18-point kind of guy. Thank you. If that's similar points, then sure. Cup, Jennings, or Madison, full PPR. At that point, I'm playing Jennings, Donald. 2 for Flinching sends in a question. Thank you, 2-4. Let's see if I can find your question in live chat. 2-4 Flinching says, half PPR, Purdy, Nix, St. Brown, AJ Brown, McLaurin, Debo, Jennings, Jonathan Taylor, Ford, Dobbins, Garando, Tracy. Okay, so if I'm starting your lineup, 2 for Flinching, Purdy's your quarterback, St. Brown and AJ Brown are your wide receivers, Jonathan Taylor and Dobbins are your running backs, and within the flex position, I'm playing McLaurin there. Thank you. Let's hear. Dan C says Nix has greater upside. I doubt that. Honestly, I don't actually believe that to be the case. Chris Pozo sends in a question. Says, JSN bombed me. Projected to lose by 10 now. In a full PPR, I have Tyreek Hill or Higgins, Connor, Jacobs, Dobbins. I need an RB2 wide receiver 2 and a flex. RB2 is Jacobs. Flex is Connor. Wide receiver 2 is Higgins. Thank you. Drew Hanna sends in a follow-up. I thought I answered your question earlier, but maybe you have a different question available. Drew Hanna says the following. Drew, I don't see anything attached to your new question, but if I was going to answer your prior question again, the 3 spots that I would suggest, again, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going with Connor, London, and JMO. Thank you. All right. Keeks sends in a question. Says, down by 20.6 in a full PPR championship. I'm worried about Neighbors' questionable tag. Again, yesterday it was reported by Ian Rappaport that he's expected to play. There's no doubtful tag, which is obviously the biggest, thing. Anyway, says I have Cooper Kupp and Darnell Mooney. Give me some wisdom. Yeah, I would play Neighbors there. Again, the volume of opportunity that he is privy to, with possibility of probably 13, 14 targets within this upcoming game, that kind of volume of opportunity won't be able to be captured by Kupp or Downs. The baseline of floor of production that Neighbors is able to accomplish is pretty much, it's just so much significantly higher than what these alternatives can produce, that if Neighbors scores a touchdown, it would be a huge mistake to not play him, to be honest. Let's see here. A couple more questions before the kickoff. We had Keegan Wall, who sends in a question. Keegan says, Stafford, who has struggled as of late, or Rudolph against the favorable Jacksonville matchup. Also, yeah, as of right now, I'd go with Stafford. I'm worried about the weather potentially impacting Rudolph's upside there. Also starting Tyjae Spears. Yeah, I understand that. As of this point, you could just hope that Tyjae Spears scores all the rushing touchdowns. I wouldn't be able to suggest Rudolph over Stafford, though. I could justify it, but I can't do it myself. Thank you. Let's see here. After that question, we had DeAndre Warren, who says PPR Marvin Harrison or Garendo. In a PPR, I believe I have Garendo still ranked higher. Let me confirm this. Yep. As of right now, I still have Garendo ranked higher. I could justify playing Marvin Harrison there, but he has to score a touchdown. In the event in which he scores a touchdown, sure, but ultimately it's just rare, few and far between circumstances there. Christopher Garza says Hawkinson or Gibson. I'd rather play Hawkinson. to be honest. Matthew sends in a question, says, hey, boss, no more questions for you this season. Thanks for getting me to the big dance 2 years in a row. Thank you very much, Matthew. Appreciate that, brother. Congratulations. Elijah Vale sends in a question. Elijah, let's see here. Elijah Vale says, I lost Jalen Hurts and Lamb, full PPR, 2 flex, Bryce Young or Flacco. As of right now, just play Bryce Young tomorrow. In the event in which Flacco is active and Anthony Richardson isn't, then you would play Flacco. But otherwise, expect to play Bryce Young tomorrow. And who are we playing out of Puka, Kupp, Thielen, Tracy, Abdullah, Ford? Of those available options, the order in which I currently have it ranked in a full PPR would be Puka 1, Thielen 2, Kupp 3, Tracy 4. Sorry, no, scratch that. Puka 1, Thielen 2, Kupp 3, Ford 4, Tracy 5, Abdullah 6. Thank you, Elijah Vale. Appreciate it, brother. After Elijah's question, we had one that came in from Ibrahim, who says, hey, brother, lost last week. Still coping. Went 12-2. I had Jalen Hurts, Puka Nacua, Nico, Connor, Bijan, Mike. Started Mike over JT. Have to live with this all summer. Yeah, that's rough that you lost Jalen Hurts last week, brother. Fantasy Football Girl sends in a question. Says, Reichard or Dicker? Reichard or Dicker? Nix or Darnold? I prefer Darnold over Nix. I prefer Reichard over Dicker. Thank you. Michael Ortiz says, brother, help me out, set my lineup. Since I lost Hurts and Kamara, Purdy starting at quarterback, full PPR, do I play Breece Hall, JT, Tracy, London, BTJ, Neighbors, Thielen, Waddle? Yeah, of those available options, Jonathan Taylor is number 1, BTJ is number 2. That's the way that we'd go about it. I don't know if you can start any more of these options. If you can, let me know and I'll be able to clean it up. But if we're talking about like 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex here, JT, Hall are your running backs, BTJ, Neighbors are your wide receivers, and London's probably in your flex there. Thank you. We had a question that came in from Keenan Harris, who says, should I start Thielen, Dobbins, or London, or Shakir? Okay, should I start Thielen, Dobbins, or London, Shakir? Okay, yeah. Of those available, Dobbins and Thielen are my... Well, Dobbins is number 1. London would probably be that number 2 spot. Thielen would be 3, Shakir would be 4. I think that's probably the way that we go about it as of right now. In a full PPR, Dobbins would probably still be the number 1. Let me check, actually. I probably have that variably changed, though. If you're, yeah, just play Dobbins there. Let's be safe with it as of right now. I mean, again, it's safe, quote unquote, because I know he's coming off of injury, but considering weather concerns, these receivers, all that kind of jazz, I think Dobbins is the better play of the bunch. Okay, we took care of that. Class of 97 says Rodgers needs 1 more touchdown for a 500th. He's looking for Adams to get him. Yeah, probably. He probably will. If they can score, of course. I mean, again, they barely scored last week. Jacob says Ramondre Stevenson or J.K. Dobbins. I'm going J.K. Dobbins. You guys see the rankings on screen. That's the direction I'm going in for sure. Stafford, May, Young, or Flacco. As of right now, I go Stafford today. If you wanted to risk it with going, Young and Flacco tomorrow, you could wait until that scenario. Class of 97. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Charleston says full PPR. I need a flex out of these. 49ers, Debo, Kittle, or Garendo. I have McBride as my tight end spot. Cool. If you were going to play Kittle or Debo, as of right now, I would probably lean in the direction of playing Kittle. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. Shane says Ramondre or Thielen. I'd rather play Thielen there. Rudolph or Pickett. I'd rather play Rudolph. Okay, what else we have? We're good to go there. Dank Main says Jawan Jennings, Ramondre Stevenson, or Jacoby Myers. I'd go with Jawan Jennings out of the group. The Murrison family says Ford, Thielen, McMillan in a half PPR. Of those available, I'd go with Ford. Dan C says, does Jonathan Taylor's ranking change if Richardson doesn't go tomorrow? I've already moved Jonathan Taylor down enough to where that's as comfortable as I am moving him down. That's as far as I would go with it. If anything, I think Jonathan Taylor's value could go up in the absence of Anthony Richardson, primarily because the rushing upside within the red zone of Richardson will no longer be a threat for Jonathan Taylor effectively. LLL619 sends in a question. Says, start JT over Kyron. Start JT and Kyron over Bijan in a full PPR. I would, yes. And why? I mean, brother, if we had to go into the and why situation, that's a 20-minute combo. Legitimately. Just understand that the volume of opportunity that will be sent in the direction of JT and Kyron on top of their matchups in itself are significantly more justifiable in comparison to Bijan in most likely a negative game script. Bijan has had 22 plus rushing attempts in like the last 5 consecutive games. I don't expect him to be able to run the ball that much, especially in a negative game script. Isaiah Garcia says, pick 1 running back, J.K. Dobbins, James Conner. I would play James Conner there. And it says pick 1 quarterback, Bo Nix or Josh Allen. I'd play Josh Allen there. Thank you. Let's see here. It says Achane, Kyron, Bucky, pick 2. As of right now, I'd probably go with a Kyron/Bucky combo there. Jay says Miami or Philly defense. I prefer Philly. Dobbins or Ford. I'd play Dobbins. Again, a lot of the questions y'all are asking are on screen. So hopefully you guys check this out over the course of this last 2 hours. But as of right now, it's 10 a.m. It is the kickoff of the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the New England Patriots. That's where I'm going to call it. I appreciate y'all. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. PST, to answer questions for 3 consecutive hours. Until then, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully the games are going to be a little bit more relevant in comparison to the most recent NFL games that took place on, of course, Wednesday and Thursday. I hope you guys have a great one. I appreciate y'all. Outside of that, I'll be heading out. I'm cueing the music. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Again, I'll be back tomorrow morning with hopefully more clarification on some of these situations. Flacco, Richardson, all that kind of jazz, some of these injuries. But outside of that, much love to all of you. There was a question sent in as the final one. Drew Hanna had a follow-up. Says 2-quarterback league. Love Bryce Young, Penix, Flacco. In the event, okay, so you have to play Jordan Love. In the event in which Flacco is starting tomorrow, you would play him. Otherwise, you play Bryce Young alongside of Love. All right, guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all. I'm cueing the double helix. Have a great rest of your Saturday. And until next time, tomorrow, I'll see you guys. Peace.